Boy, back at y'all with another one. Let's get down to business. So we're talking about the NBA free agency period, which we still in the midst of right now. Summer league is still going on. Uh, we had that wave of free agency signings that took place. You know, you got a whole lot of stars and superstars that like signing max deals. Whether it be Trey Young's, Jimmy Butler, uh, had a whole lot of trades going on. You know what I'm saying? Russell Westbrook going to the Lakers and all that. So we're here to talk about what signing was the most overrated. I'm not talking about trades, right? Uh, but then again, we have to talk about trades. So we got to talk about that. So I retract that last statement. So what move was the most overrated? All right. And to me, there are two moves, in my opinion, that I thought that were the most overhyped or overrated, right? The first move is the Lakers trading for Russell Westbrook, right? I thought that move was the most overhyped. After that move was made, you had a lot of fans come on different social media platforms. You even had media members coming out saying how this could be a championship team and all that. But I just don't see it. So I thought that move right there was the most overhyped by far. The second move, I think that was, in my opinion, overhyped, is the Bulls' acquisition of Demar Derozan. Now, don't get me wrong, Derozan is a great player, right? I take that back. He's a good but not great player, right? Um, while I do think the Bulls can make the playoffs because they got a solid team with DeRozan, I think Zach LaVine's still there, barring any changes. Uh, they got a up and coming point guard in Kobe White. But then again, once they did the sign and trade of Lonzo, and I thought that was an overpay for the Bulls, in my opinion. Despite the fact Lonzo's had a better season last year, one of his, I think this was his best season up to date. But I thought the $85 million that he got was a reach. But that's just my humble opinion, right? But nevertheless, they got him. They got Vooch in the trade. You know, a lot of people looking at this roster here, and there's no reason why the Bulls can't make the playoffs. So I think that those two moves right there are the most overhyped when it comes to the free agency period. Um, Let me see. That's what I'm gonna do right here. So there's other deals that were made that hadn't been talked about a whole lot, right? And I know I talked about this on this channel right here, but I think the no, I hadn't talked about this on this channel, right? To a lesser degree, we're gonna talk about Toronto Raptors, right? I haven't heard really anybody talk about the Toronto Raptors and their free agency signings and all that, right? But them re-signing Gary Trent Jr. to a 3-year, $52 million contract, and they got a third-year player option with an additional $3 million in incentives. So for a guy that's scoring dependent, that really don't put up a whole lot of other peripheral stats, And then on top of that, what is he going to play the 3? Is he going to play the 2? Right? Because you got Fred VanVleet, that's going to be pretty much the primary ball handler. And depending on whatever they do with Pascal Siakam, because it seems like him and Nick Nurse is at odds right now. I just don't see where the Toronto Raptors are going to go. That's why I predicted they're not going to do nothing next year, right? And yeah, you Toronto Raptors fans will be pissed off, but you know, hey, I don't give a fuck if you get pissed off when I'm trying to tell you the truth. Your team is not going to do nothing next year. And if they, you know, somehow were able to make wine out of water, then, you know, hey, I'll come back in here and I'll eat my humble pie. But the proclamations I've made about the Toronto Raptors up to this point have been true. I told y'all a couple years ago that they was going to get bounced in the second round, coming off that championship you won the year before, and you had a lot of people call me crazy. I didn't know what I was talking about. This, that, and the third. Well, look what ended up happening. You end up getting bounced in the second round by the goddamn old Boston Celtics. Then last year, I told everybody that, oh man, the Toronto Raptors ain't gonna do shit next year. That's a team that's gonna regress. It was oh man, you be the fucking head LB. You know what the fuck you talking about? And look what ended up happening. They didn't do shit. So one of your linchpins in Kyle Lowry leaves to go to the Miami Heat, taking his talent to South Beach, right? Which leaves you at a void at the 1 position. So the most likely scenario I see happening is Fred VanVleet end up going to play in being the primary ball handler. Then you got other guys like Malachi Flynn and all that, but I think clear cut Fred VanVleet is going to be the number 1 option on that offense, especially if they end up trading away Pascal Siakam, right? Now, the guy that they traded away, and Norman Powell, right? Because remember, they traded him to Portland last year. He got 5 years and $90 million. Norman Powell did. Norman Powell got 5 years and $90 million. And Portland re-signed him to that deal, right? Now, the one thing that's on Gary Trent Jr.'s side is his age, because he's only 22 years old. He's very young, so there's some upside there. Now, let's talk about the other signings that happened on that team, right? Ken Burch, a guy they traded for when he was in Orlando, right? He was the 3rd center on that team. And last year, the Raptors went 17-55, right? But he did get $20 million in a 3-year deal. Well, no one was giving Ken Burch that kind of money, right? 3 years and $20 million. No one was giving Ken Burch that kind of deal. So once again, it's a kind of overreach. Now, when the going back to Kyle Lowry, so they did the signing trade with Miami. They ended up getting Goran Dragic, right? They ended up getting Goran Dragic and Precious Achiuwa, right? Which I think if there's anybody who has the potential to be really good, watch out for that guy, Precious Oshawa. Watch out for that guy. He's good. But the question is, when it comes to Goran Dragic, how is he going to hold up? You know, is they going to have him come off the bench, right? Because that's pretty much what they had him do last year when he was hurt a lot, right? To preserve his body and his minutes. Even though he still saw 30 minutes, but they had him coming off the bench. So what is his role going to be in Toronto, right? So I just don't see how the Raptors going to pull this off. I just don't. This team is going to go nowhere next year, man. You know, I mean, outside of Van Fleet and to a lesser extent Gary Trent Jr., who do they got that's going to scare you? I mean, Oshawa's going to be a good player, but come on. OG Anunoby, is he going to be a guy that's going to scare you? Right? Now, OG is a good defender, but his offense leaves lots to be desired. I guess we're going to see if his offensive game is going to unlock even more if Pascal Siakam gets traded. Right? And what are they going to do with Dragic? Because Dragic already made it known that he don't want to be there. So, I mean, Toronto Raptors have a whole bunch of questions that they got to answer, right? I mean, I don't know. Now, let's talk about the Pelicans, right? So Pelicans got a new coach. They did a sign and trade with Lonzo. Lonzo's with the Bulls now. They signed Devontae Graham. They got him from the Hornets, right? Because he just wasn't a fit. Yeah, with LaMelo taking the reins as the face of the franchise, coming off a Rookie of the Year campaign. I think LaMelo got more upside than Devontae Graham. Don't get me wrong, Devontae Graham ain't no scrub, but you gotta love LaMelo's upside. And I think going into next season, he got to be the primary ball handler. You got to take that ball out of Terry Rozier's hands and give LaMelo the keys to the city. And I would like the Hornets to sign LiAngelo, because I think LiAngelo has had a really good summer league. I mean, he's been really good in the summer league. Yeah, there's some things he got going, but you know what? No one game is perfect and all that, right? I mean, everybody talk about, oh man, LiAngelo, he's just a scoring dependent guy. He gonna look. The guy goes out there and gets buckets, okay? Now I know I've been critical of Lonzo and all that, and I know I've been critical of their dad in the past and all that, but I get to change my assessment based on evidence I've seen, and what I've seen is he has been great in these summer leagues. He's got to keep on doing what he's doing. When he got cut last year by the Pistons, he went out, he busted his ass, he worked hard, he stayed out the limelight and all that, and then he's coming back, and and the fruits of his labor is being recognized. So, anywho, back to the Pelicans, right? I don't know what this team was doing either. So they traded for Devontae Graham. and they had a 3-year deal with Memphis, right? So, because remember, Memphis acquired Steven Adams, and the Pelicans ended up getting Jonas Valanciunas. That deal was done prior to the draft or whatever, right? But in the trade with the Bulls, Lonzo, they end up getting Tomas Satoransky and Garrett Temple, right? Now, Tomas Satoransky, he's been on the Wizards. He ended up spurning the Wizards and signing with the Bulls a couple years ago in the offseason. And now he's on his third team. But if you look up the makeup of that roster, right? Yeah, the roster is going to go through, as far as like the ball handling go, is going to go through Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, right? If I'm the coach of that team, right, I will put the ball in the hands of Brandon Ingram. I will make him as the point guard, right? Because none of those other guys, in my opinion, if you want to maximize the upside of this team, right? You put the ball in the hands of Brandon Ingram, let him be the point forward, right? And you let Zion do his thing down the block where he's most effective at. All these guys trying to get him out to that 3-point line and all that, no. And because everybody's so enamored with the 3-point shot, you get guys that normally should be down the block, controlling the paint, getting rebounds, blocking shots, because that's one thing I would like to see Zion Williamson improve on is his rebounding, right? They want him to be so enamored. People out here so enamored with the 3-point shot. We got to go out here and stretch the floor and all this dumbass shit. Look, at the end of the day, the game of basketball is simple, right? It's more mental than physical, right? And you might think, well, why you gotta be more mental than physical? Because I've seen people got talked out their game before. Hell, I remember one time when I was playing the pickup game when I was a young Thundercat. I had this dude talk me out my game and all that. Couldn't hit a shot. It was just so out of it. So the game of basketball is more mental than physical, and to another degree, all you got to do on offense is score, and on defense, stop them from scoring. We've taken a simple game and make out to be this convoluted science project because everybody's so enamored with stretching the floor and hitting the three and all that, instead of just playing to the strengths of the talent that you have available. That's why I was so adamant about Giannis Antetokounmpo not listening to these guys on TV, not listening to these jackasses on social media about shooting the three. You don't need to shoot the three. You are more dominant down there, and no one can stop you when you go to the basket. So why not do what you do best? You don't need to stretch the floor and shoot the three all the time. Yeah, if you're a hell of a 3-point shooter, then yeah, have at it. If you can shoot it, but if you can't shoot it, then why are we so enamored with trying to shoot the three? Oh man, you see Steph Curry, man? Steph Curry can put up from 30, man. He can change the game. Get the fuck out of here. Just because you can shoot the three at a high clip don't mean you change the game. That's stupid talk. All this stuff about changing the game, how does he change the game? Just because he can shoot the three at a really good clip? That's changing the game. Don't get me wrong, Stephen Curry is a hell of a shooter. He's probably one of the best shooters I've ever seen. But this whole notion about him changing the game just because he can shoot a three at a really good clip, get the fuck out of here. The guy sounds stupid as fuck. And if you really think about it, I don't understand why the three-point shot's so emphasized, considering that the last couple teams that won the NBA championship didn't shoot the three at a really good clip. It's just not winning strategy. If you want an example of that, look no further than the Duke Blue Devils, right, in college. The Duke Blue Devils live and die by that three-point shot. Sure, there have been a few years they won the national championship and all that, but has Duke ever repeated as national champion? Have they ever went back-to-back? And Coach Krzyzewski's 40-something years, illustrious career and all that, right? Have they ever won back-to-back NCAA championships just by shooting the three-point shot? What's up, Polo? What you got?
Salute to you, bro.
Salute to you too, bro.
Man, chilling, man. You hitting on facts right now.
Hold on. I gotta take that back. They went back to back once in 91, 92. So they won the championship in 91 and they won in 92.
You talking about the Bulls?
The Blue Devils, the Duke Blue Devils. They won the national championship in 91 and they turned around and won it again in 92.
Leitner Hill and Hurley.
So for that one, so it was 41 years coaching basketball. They only went back to back once.
Man.
But listen, I'm not trying to make this about the Duke Blue Devils. Fuck them. Can't stand them bastards. Anyway,
man, you can't talk about my squad like that. Come on, man.
Man, fuck Duke. Anyway,
fuck North Carolina, nigga.
Hey, watch your fucking mouth, bastard. But then again,
y'all just started doing.
I'm not a North Carolina fan, man. I'm a Clemson fan, bro. You know what I'm saying? You know my basketball team sucks.
Nigga, the only thing that they use is the offense. That I give y'all that Princeton offense. That's not. Other than that, not facts.
All right, so
I'm fucking with you.
Who do you think was the most overrated free agency signing?
You already know, LB. You already know where I'm going with this, man. The Lakers, of course. That was the most, to me, overhyped and overrated. I'll get into that in a second, but I want to go back to what you were talking about just a few minutes ago. You alluded to the fact of a lot of teams that nobody's even talking about. I think that Chicago, it was a sleeper. Because you were talking about Lonzo Ball, and Lonzo Ball, as much hell as we did give him, I looked at his numbers, man. He actually took a step up because he shot like 38% from three. He raised his 3-point percentage, raised his field goal, and most importantly, he shot 84% from, I think it was like 70, like in the 80s for free throws. So he improved in that aspect of his game. Them adding DeMar DeRozan and a couple other people in Chicago, and they already got what's his name, Vucevic, and then of course Zach LaVine. I think that's a team that could be a force to be reckoned with. I don't know how far they're gonna go, but I think that Chicago's really trying to make some moves to build around Zach LaVine. And another team that I felt like didn't really get the props for their signing, was Miami, because Kyle Lowry is he's averaging what seven? I think it's around 17, around the lines of 17 and 8 or something like that. He's shooting 39%, and that's a pickup. And they got PJ Tucker, who's just coming off a championship, and makes it supremely changes your defense. And then, of course, the third one was Charlotte. I don't think very many people, if you look at the summer league and you look at the way that Boat Knight plays, the way that Kai Jones coming from Texas, and then they got Oubre, Lonzo Ball gonna come back. They might end up getting signing on Leandro, who's supremely changed the game, and they got an up and coming team that's young, athletic. I think that they're a sleeper too, because they did pretty good in the draft too. So we got to look at some of these other teams other than the Lakers or some of the top upper echelon, the Clippers. Man, what if I'm Kawhi? That was man. I'm gonna put to you like this. I don't think that Kawhi has that much long left.
No, I don't think he got that much longer neither.
And he signed 4 years, 176? Man, you don't even know if you got 4 years left.
Why do you think he took the deal?
Get that money. He did the Dak Prescott move.
You got to get the bag, bro. Look. His injury history has been well documented up to this point. So he got to take the deal, or else you end up like Dennis Schroeder gambling and end up getting snake eyes at the goddamn dice table.
Man, that motherfucker there, man. How you gonna go from one story franchise that actually gave you opportunity, 84 million, then you gonna go to another one, you shot yourself, you Barney Fifed yourself in the foot.
Goddamn buffoon.
Man, his girlfriend more alpha than him.
Oh, his wife? Yeah, his wife definitely more alpha.
Yeah, his wife more gangster than him. Man, he up in there crying and talking about, he was just toxic the whole time because he was getting into it with everybody. But the main one was him and Kuzma they weren't on the same page, and you clearly saw it. But you didn't do anything. You played really horrible, especially in the Phoenix series, man. I mean, you shot in the low 30s. You shot in the 30s with your field goal percentage, and then your free throws were horrible too. You don't deserve any money. You don't deserve. You ain't no $100 million man.
Right. He's just a fucking clown. That's all that is. He's a clown.
I'm gonna tell you like this, man. Schroeder, he disappointed me because I'm gonna be real with you. I actually kind of like Schroeder just a little bit.
What?
When he came over from, I'm talking about when he was in Atlanta, I was like, man, this guy could actually try to be something. And then he went to OKC, kind of dropped off a little bit, but then he walked into LA like he owned the place, like they owe him something. Nigga, you ain't putting no type of banners up in that stadium.
I slightly disagree with you because he did win. He did win or he was a contender for Sixth Man of the Year when he was in OKC.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about in terms of his, like points and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't, but he took another role when he was in OKC. In Atlanta, he was a starter. He got carried a low, but in Atlanta they won't win.
Right, because if you remember, for 2 years after they traded, what's up, Kai Clark? Salute to you, homie. Shout out to Kai Clark in the building. Remember, after they traded Jeff Teague to Indiana, right? Mm-hmm. For 2 years, he was the starting point guard. Dennis Schroeder was.
Yeah.
And that first year, they went 43-39. They lost to the Wizards in the first round. Then that second year, I think after that was Mike Budenholzer's last year in Atlanta. they went 24 and 58 with him as a starting point guard, right?
Yeah.
So they traded him to OKC, and remember that was around the time when Houston traded Chris Paul from Houston to OKC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul was never going to be a long-term solution there in OKC, but he did the 1 year there. You think Dennis Schroeder was going to start above Chris Paul? Hell no.
No, but
and then he won the Sixth Man of the Year there. They came within an eyelash of beating Houston in the first round, right? Mm-hmm. Then OKC trades Dennis Schroeder to the Lakers for Danny Green and another player. And what did that fucking ass cloud do? Oh man, I'm done coming off the bench. I want to start.
Right.
I'm a starter. Right? You going to a team that just came off an NBA championship without him now, and then he go over there and start making demands and shit like he the fucking Don Dada, like he the fucking creme de la creme, like he was the cream rose to the top. The fuck out of here.
Hey LB, you know they came out with something that did you know that Dwight Howard was trying to get Danny Green to come back to the Lakers? Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about that, but even then, I mean, what good does that do?
Yeah, I think he was looking at it from a.
Think about this, right? Is the Danny Green signing? If say he go back to the Lakers, right? Is that going to be some seismic shift that's going to tip the scales in the Lakers' favor? No.
Yeah, because they're trying to get Isaiah Thomas. They were trying to get Isaiah Thomas. Lance Stevenson coming back, man. What you think about Lance Stevenson making a comeback, man?
He should have never left.
Yeah, I like Lance Stevenson.
Well, I think this back. Well, it's not like he left on his own. You know, the NBA kind of pushed him out.
Yeah, kind of blackballed him.
Because he's always been a really good player. You know what I'm saying? He can shoot, he can handle, he can play defense, he can antagonize people and all that. You know, for him not to be on the NBA roster is like almost kind of disrespectful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is. And he's still young. He ain't number 30. He still got a lot of time there.
Right.
You know, he hadn't had the injuries. He hadn't had hardly. I haven't heard any injuries that he's had. So he's still pretty much it can hoop. And the antics, you know, that's who he is and everything. But one thing that you can't say about Lance Stevenson, man, is that dude he be putting in work, man. I've been seeing this dude like work out. You know, so he definitely be putting in the work and stuff, but it's just about him getting the opportunity and actually flourishing, because he's been like at the top, like in terms of almost getting there, but hasn't been able to kind of make that push over the hump. And I put it to you like this too: he outlasted his teammate over there in Lincoln. He outlasted Sebastian Telfair. He had a longer career than him. He played 9 years.
Yeah.
You know, but my bad. I didn't mean to stray away from the subject. But yeah, man, Chicago, Charlotte, and Miami. Those were the guys I think that had the impactful signings.
Okay. That's fair assessment and all that, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Lowry Rider Sports in the building, man. Salute to you, bro. For real. I just think that it's gonna be really interesting to see how this season play out and all that, you know what I'm saying? And this rumor, I think the rumor was the Bucks were trying to sign Lance Stevenson and all that.
Yeah.
But, you know, even though I think PJ Tucker is a better defender, but obviously Lance Stevenson has more of an offensive game than PJ Tucker. Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So like he can bring the ball up in minutes where Drew Holiday is on the bench and all that and whatever, right? He'll bring the ball. He can bring the ball up. He can get the team set up and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I think the Bucks need to go after him.
Right.
I really do think the Bucks need to go after him and all that. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, Kai Clark, I already know what move you talk about because I just talked about that before you came in. That DeRozan signing was overrated. But anyway, go ahead.
Hey,
I know you got something on this.
How was that overrated?
Huh?
How was that DeRozan signing overrated, man? Come on, bro.
You don't need DeRozan.
Like, I think
you got a guy in goddamn Zach LaVine that can pretty much do the same thing DeRozan do.
Well, now we got two guys who can put up points for the Bulls.
DeRozan ain't consistent though.
All I'm worried about this year is trying to make the playoffs. That's it. It ain't about trying to win a championship this year. You just got to make the playoffs. We still got a long way to go for the Bulls are back.
No, y'all don't. Y'all got Vucevic, man.
Oh, you said the Bulls are back?
Yeah,
I said we still got a long way to go till the Bulls are back.
Oh, okay.
Y'all not too far. Y'all not as far as what you think. Because people are really sleeping on that dude Vucevic, man. And what's his name? I think Lonzo Ball going out there, and Lou. I think it's going to revive his career.
I think that word gonna be better than the next. Even though we are gonna be the whole year.
Now, having said all that, right? Having said all that, the Bulls should make the playoffs with this roster. They should.
On paper, huh?
On paper, yeah, I understand games are not won and lost paper and all that. But if you look at the makeup of this team on paper, there's no reason the Bulls should not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Celtics Nation 67 salute, bro. I see you.
I think the Bull. I think I think also on the whole Lance Stephenson thing, LB. I hope Brooklyn signs him so when they play the Lakers, he can get on LeBron James' nerves.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that could be the case, right? But my thing is, okay, you see them two in. They'll see each other 2 times in the regular season, and then that'll be the last time they see each other, barring the NBA Finals. That's assuming both teams get that far.
So this is what it is now, man. We're gonna be arguing about the Lakers the whole season.
Oh, we arguing the whole season because last time I checked, the Lakers ain't the only team in the NBA.
But you know how it is, man. I just hope y'all ready for the bullshit. I hope y'all is ready for the whole bullshit for the whole season because you know it's gonna be some shit.
I think, hey Lou and L. I think the Jazz made a good move by getting Pascal, and then what's his name, Valanciunas going to New Orleans. That was a chess move.
Jazz also got Rudy Gay on that team.
Yeah, but Rudy, come on, Lou. Rudy Gay. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't look at Rudy Gay like that no more.
I guess they got him for the himself.
Rudy Gay
what did he average this year?
Not enough. That would be under 10 points a game.
Yeah, that's solid. I mean,
what did he average this year?
Not enough. What's up, Kai Clark? What you got?
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, I'm good. Is there an echo when I'm speaking?
Yeah, how you guys doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there's an echo when you're speaking.
Okay, 1 second. Let me try something real quick. Sorry about that. Let me try something.
Yeah, I'm good. Is there an echo when I'm speaking? Yeah.
Try it now and mute my mic. Go ahead.
All right, is that better? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is that better?
You just gotta make sure you turn off YouTube in the background, or else you're gonna get that feedback. Go ahead.
All right. So yeah, for me, the way I kind of see it is with the Eastern Conference, I'm expecting a lot of different changes this year. I believe that the Eastern Conference, first and foremost, is actually the toughest conference in all of basketball now in terms of depth, rosters, star talent. And to kind of mention when we're talking about the Chicago Bulls, I think the Chicago Bulls, like you were saying, Lou, they made one overrated signing. I mean, LB, they made one overrated signing, which is DeMar DeRozan. It's not that he's a bad player, and he's a great mid-range player, but he doesn't really give you much defensively. And throughout his career, he never takes 3-point shots. He's not a really good 3-point shooter, so he can't space the floor. So last year in I believe it was San Antonio, there was times when he actually played at the power forward position, which actually helped their team. Whereas with the Bulls, you're looking for another wing piece, but if you can't space the floor, now you have to stagger both him and Zach LaVine's minutes because they both want the ball in their hands. I love the Lonzo Ball signing. I know LB's not a big fan per se of Lonzo Ball, but it's what Lonzo Ball can be if he has his mind right. He's a 6'7" point guard who can defend the point guard position, the shooting guard position, the small forward position, and at times the forward position. He's going to push the ball in transition. He's always wanted to do that at UCLA. That's always been his calling card. He's excellent in transition, and he's now able to shoot the 3-point shot, right? He took about like 6-7 attempts per game. So when Lonzo Ball gets into a rhythm, when he gets into a flow, like his floor game is crazy. And then Caruso, you guys already know what Caruso brings. He brings defense and tenacity, and he can shoot that three. So I'm looking at the Bulls, and they did all the moves to get them into the playoffs because before they were like a 10-11 seed. So now you're talking about a team that's going to elevate into the playoffs. And then I was mentioning earlier in the comment section, I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the Bulls are going to be like top 5. No, you never rise up that high. You never rise up that high when you're previously a playoff team. But I definitely think they could be a 6 seed or a 7 seed. I see a team like the Boston Celtics falling in the standings because they did absolutely nothing. They have two wing players that I like in Tatum and what's his name, Jaylen Brown. You know, Jaylen Brown, he kind of learned underneath the tutelage of Tracy McGrady. Jason Tatum learned under the tutelage of Kobe Bryant, but they really did nothing in their interior. They really did nothing in the point guard position. Dennis Schroeder isn't an upgrade from Kemba Walker, but he'll be healthier. And I'm looking at the guy like Vucevic, that if they were to play the Celtics in like a series, Vucevic would destroy the Boston Celtics because they have no one that can guard him, right? So I think the Bulls could easily be like a six seed or something like that. But I think for me, ultimately, when I look at the Eastern Conference, my final points on this is watch out for the Atlanta Hawks. And the reason why I say the Atlanta Hawks is because they have about 6 or 7 guys, which is crazy when you look at them, right? That scored in double-digit points last year. They all know their role. They have Bogdanovich. They have Kevin Huerter from University of Maryland. Shout out to him. They have Trae Young. They have John Collins. They just have a lot of wing depth. They're getting back DeAndre Hunter, who can score and defend, right? They have a 6th man of the year in Lou Will. And when you look at the regular season, guys, the NBA season is an 82-game season. So when people are like, who can win the conference? Who can be a top 3 team? Yes, you have the Bucks. Yes, you have the Nets. But the Nets are going to rest some of their older players, right? And the Atlanta Hawks are one of the youngest teams in the NBA they're going to have longevity as the season wanes. They have depth and they have youth on their side. And they fired their old head coach and brought in a new head coach, Nate McMillan, and that paid off last season. So they were actually really hitting their stride in that second half. So I expect them to start off the season on the ground running, actually. So they should actually have even more wins next year. So they were a 5th seed this past season. So they could easily creep up in the top 3 because they didn't get worse. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in the Eastern Conference. I'm actually looking at the Atlanta Hawks to make some noise because I think a lot of not you guys, but the analysts, I've been watching some of them on TV, and I'm hearing people say, the Bulls and the Miami Heat are actually like better than them or whatever. And I'm like, no, I actually don't think that the Bulls and Miami Heat are better than them. I think the Miami Heat fulfill the defensive need, but they lost out on not getting Kawhi Leonard. They lost out on not getting Bradley Beal, and they lost out on not getting James Harden. And they're resting their laurels on Victor Oladipo being healthy, which I think all of us on this panel know is not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Miami is a good team on paper, but ultimately you kind of already know their ceiling. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I want to say about the Eastern Conference. That's kind of what I'm looking at, guys.
Yeah, as far as the Atlanta Hawks go, right? Remember, they brought in after Nick McMillan was given the Indian. He got the Indian giver treatment and got that Indiana, where they gave him the contract extension, and then like 2 weeks later they fired him, right? They fired him. Atlanta brought him in as an assistant under Lloyd Pierce, right? And who was on this? Who was the person that was saying that? Hey, Lloyd Pierce is on the hot seat. I've been saying that. Who's been saying that dude was going to be on the hot seat? That if Atlanta was going to stumble, they was going to fire his ass. Me, this guy, right? And that's what happened. They got to a good start. Then they hit that rocky patch. They had a whole bunch of injuries. Next thing you know, they were like 14-20, and then up firing Lloyd Pierce and then elevated Nick McMillan to the head coaching position, right? And he got that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, that was only the second time they got into the Eastern Conference Finals in their franchise history, right? And everything you said up to this point has been absolutely correct about them having youth. They got upside. They got depth. This team can make some serious noise in the Eastern Conference, man.
You know what, LB? I would not be surprised if Atlanta goes in the playoffs next year with the number 1 seed.
Exactly.
Because you're right. You're going to see a whole lot of star players rested from the season. You may not even see them play around on 55 to 60 games. You may only see them play like around 40 or 45 games. So if Atlanta goes in the playoffs as the number 1 seed, nobody going to believe in them. And they're going to probably easily feed their way into the Eastern Conference Finals once again.
I got to piggyback off of what Lou was saying. Aaron Clark, he brought up a valuable point too. He was talking about the youth factor, and he was talking about another thing that I think a lot of people ain't looking at. John Collins, man, he shot tremendously from 3-point. A lot of people don't understand that, but being how athletic he was. I think that's it. Huerter and Bogdanovich, to me, I have them in the top 5 in terms of 3-point shooting. But this is another thing. Clint Capella is the leading rebounder in the NBA. That's another thing. He's an offensive rebounding juggernaut. So you
He's
combine
also
all
a
of
shot
that.
blocker too. He's
You said
also a
what?
rim protector and a shot blocker too.
Yeah, he does good. I like his offensive rebounding though. He does pretty good with that. But you couple all that and like El said, you know, with the rim protection and stuff, man. Atlanta is gonna be a sleeper, like Lou said and Clark said, man, because nobody's really looking at them guys, and them guys are a bucket. Horder and Bogdanovich, man.
Yeah, they can definitely shoot the lights out. And I think what you mentioned about Clint Capella, the rebounding, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of NBA fans, a lot of these so-called like analysts on TV, they don't really analyze anything. They get enamored too much by names. Like, oh, well, you need, and I'm not knocking these guys, but like, oh, you need like Joel Embiid or Jokic or whatever. You know, Capella's not that, so he's not great because he didn't win with Harden, Houston, whatever. That wasn't his fault. You know what I'm saying? They chose to play small ball. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But right. But Capella being the leading rebounder, like you could ask someone on the street who's the leading rebounder in the NBA, and they wouldn't know that. You know what I'm saying? Capella, he plays his role like he really, really good. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, the Atlanta Hawks, it's a team that for me that I think is they're just really exciting to watch. I'm gonna really be really excited to watch them. I'm not a Hawks fan, but I'm definitely gonna be a fan of watching the team. I like teams like that. I like teams with depth, with youth. You know, not a super team. Everyone knows their roles and they play good, and they definitely have a good chance to go deep into the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not a fluke, because I think when you have shortened seasons, when you have bubble seasons, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people get caught up into certain teams, and the very next year we see who's real and who's not. And I believe the Atlanta Hawks are very real, and they need to be dealt with if you're an opposing team. And I'll also say this, guys. Atlanta Hawks, if you remember, they're one of the teams that gave the Brooklyn Nets the most problems, because they're like, oh, you guys can score. Oh, we can score right with you. We ain't scared of y'all. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, if they were to play in a series or something like that, it would come down to the KDs of the world, to the Kyries of the world, because what they can do in the fourth quarter. But that boy Trae Young, he's and I like what he do on the court. I thought sometimes the bravado, I was like, I don't know, is he really like that? But no, he's like that. Like he can really kill fools. You know what I'm saying? So they can definitely go Glock for Glock with that team. So I think that would be interesting. I think that would be interesting for sure.
Right. Hey, shout out to the homie Hitman next in the building, man. I see you, man. I agree with you. Lakers had the most overrated offseason. That's why that's what I mentioned beginning of the stream.
I wanted to say something about the Lakers, LB, because I missed that. Yeah, shout out to Hitman X. The Lakers. So here's the thing with the Lakers, because I kind of wanted your guys' perspective on it.
Shout out to Hitman.
Missed it. The Lakers, right? They're the team where I could see them, I think, this year, because I think they did a great job in terms of this. Being able to fill a roster that quickly, I think that's kind of what surprised a lot of people. You fill a roster that quickly, okay, but it's like every, I guess, positive that they did was like nullified with something. If that makes sense. And so that's why I feel like they're like a middle of the road team. Like at best they're a 5 seed. At worst they're like, I don't know, like if everything goes wrong, they could drop to like 8 or something like that. But I think the Russell, Westbrook, and AD pick and roll is going to be demonstrative and nasty. But Russell Westbrook can't space the floor. Then you get guys like Malik Monk, you get guys like Trevor Ariza that can shoot the 3, but they can't defend, because Ariza he's just long in the tooth now. He's 36, and Malik Monk is no defensive stalwart. You get a guy like Carmelo Anthony to replace Kyle Kuzma, and I'm in no way saying that Kyle Kuzma was ever on the level of Carmelo Anthony, right? And I love Carmelo Anthony, right? But you can attack Carmelo defensively, you know what I'm saying? And you look at some of the 4s in the Western Conference, like the Paul Millsaps of the world, some of the guys that the Clippers have over there. Like I could see them, attacking Carmelo's defense. You have LeBron. He's older and he has to play off the ball. He showed some of it in the bubble, but that's not his optimal position. So I was like, in order for Westbrook to be successful, guys, right? Like he needs the ball in his hands. We all agree with that.
They made it, but hey Clark, I mean cut you off. They made it. They made the switch though. And I got to see how this works. They made the switch from power forward, LeBron going to power forward, and AD going to center. But we got to see how that long that lasts, because they're kind of like I'm not gonna say they're taking a back seat to Westbrook, but they're kind of like, okay, look, we know that you're going to be the primary ball handler, but LeBron, man, he has constant trouble with having the ball not in his hand, he moving without the ball or whatever. So we got to see how that takes place, man.
I definitely agree, and that's the issue that I have, because I think we can all agree is like this. It's like, okay, Russ needs the ball in his hands. Okay, that's the first point. Cool. LeBron, he's always need the ball in his hands too, but it's like, if you want Russ to be successful, you got to put the ball in his hands. But he's not the best playmaker, because he's going to turn the ball over. Like, he can get assists, we already know that, but he's also going to turn the ball over like a rotisserie chicken. So if you know that, and you take you know what I'm saying? That's one of my COD classics, by the way. Y'all can use that. But if you take LeBron and you
I'm like it though.
Yeah, if you take LeBron, go ahead.
I was gonna say this. I think in the regular season, they're gonna look good, but when playoff time comes around, rookie is gonna turn back into rookie. Westbrook, y'all know he's gonna be selfish and try to do everything by himself when you don't need to, and that's where Lakers gonna really get in trouble.
Right, and that's the thing, because like you're taking the ball out of one of the best decisions. Actually, well, yeah, like not even one of the best. Like I would actually go as far as saying, and I'm not even a LeBron fan, but like he'll make by the coach's definition, right? He'll make the right basketball play. Now at the end of the games, though, the right basketball play might be at the open man, but that open man, if he's a sixth option, you don't really want to take that. So that's why I'm always going to take, my MJs and coach. You know what I'm saying?
They're going to have to go through some bad times too, though. Yeah, I got to see how. Listen, we can sit up here all day and say, okay, yeah, they won the gold medal. You know what I'm saying? Back in the gap or whatever. But they're older, and then on top of that, they're injury prey, and on top of that, these guys are going to get frustrated. We can sit up here and act like these guys ain't hotheads in Westbrook and in LeBron too. LeBron is a hothead. You just not gonna see it, but walking out on your team and frustrated and stuff like that, that shows a lot about you and everything. So we got to see what type of how they're gonna handle the adversity, because it's all good when you win it, but how they gonna handle adversity?
Hey, I'm gonna stay online. I'm not gonna end the stream. Just keep cooking. I'm gonna come back in the room. I gotta take care of something real quick. But I'm gonna keep the stream up.
Okay.
My bad, Clark. I didn't mean to cut you off though, man.
No, it's cool. It's cool. You guys are good. Yeah, I agree with what both of you guys are saying. Like I was and you beat me to my point on that. I think another thing is the personalities, how the personalities mesh. So like me and one of my homeboys, we were talking about this, and then he was like, okay, what is LeBron James? He's like, he's a guy who likes to take subliminal shots at his teammates and the media. And then I was like, that's true. And I was like, Russ, what is his approach? Russ is a in your face, I want to speak to you, I'm going to talk to you or talk at you, direct approach. So LeBron is what you call a passive aggressive person, and I hate dealing with passive aggressive people. I don't like dealing with them in the workplace. You don't like most people don't like passive aggressive, because it's like, yo, you're cool one day and the next day, you know what I'm saying? That personality I never mesh with. Most human beings don't. So you got a passive aggressive, and then you got a direct approach, and those two things they clash. You know what I'm saying? And I think like the media, they don't really talk about like egos, personalities, how people mesh, older guys on the team, what they want to do. And so I kind of look at the 2012-2013 Lakers team. Now the roster was constructed differently, right? Dwight was on that team though, and I know he won the championship for the Lakers, but I'm just not a fan of Dwight Howard. I have my reasons, and that's part of it right there. But it's like that team. It wasn't. Everyone was out of their role, and they had the worst head coach for that personnel. You're trying to run a 7 seconds or less offense with no 3-point shooting, a bunch of big guys and old guys, and Kobe had to literally take the ball out of Steve Nash's hands. So Russ is taking the ball out of LeBron's hands. And the Lakers in 2012, 2013, Steve Nash was resorted to a spot-up shooter, and that didn't work. You know what I'm saying? So like I could see a situation
hurt too.
Yeah, and hurt. He broke his leg. Kobe tore his Achilles. Dwight led the NBA in post turnovers, which no one talks about, which is crazy. You know, Kobe led the NBA in post efficiency at 34, which is a crazy like hidden stat. Like there's so many different things that could go awry with this Laker team, and I think what you were saying earlier about once they get into the playoffs, then they're really going to have problems. I think teams are going to shrink the floor. I think teams are going to back up on Westbrook, and I think their defensive wings are going to get constantly attacked. Because the front court, you have the ADs of the world, you have the Dwight Howards of the world, but guys like Dwight, guys like Marc Gasol aren't really going to be playable in the fourth quarter. Gasol, you can get by him. He's a sieve on defense. Dwight Howard, he provides you nothing offensively. If you foul him, he provides you nothing from the free throw line. Westbrook provides you nothing from the free throw line. So I look at that, and it's like for any good thing that they could do, the driving kick out, the pick and roll with AD, it gets nullified by, I think, team chemistry. If there is a lack of team chemistry for any reason, by age and by being able to be attacked defensively. I know they talk about Frank Vogel and his team defense. I laud and applaud him for implementing that. But KCP was a good two-way player, a great spot-up shooter, or should I say became a great spot-up shooter who was good defensively. Alex Caruso was a dog defensively. He was kind of...
To me, at this point, I don't think Frank Vogel coaching no more. I think he's just a puppet now.
Yeah, puppet in place for
that's facts. That's facts, Lou.
Yeah.
So every time he tried to be a coach,
you think they're gonna be telling him what to do, Lou?
Yeah, I think LeBron James is head coach now.
Yeah.
They're gonna bully him, Clark.
They're gonna bully him to the ground, man.
Cause that's a lot of egos, man. Lou, that's facts right there, man. That's a lot of egos, man.
Like you think a
lot of has-beens.
Like you think Steve Nash got it bad, Frank Vogel got it worse.
That is facts, bro.
And you know what's crazy? I think for me, it's like when LeBron goes on Instagram, right, and he posts his insecurities to the world. You know what I'm saying? Because with that statement about the team, right? Which I don't want to get too deep into it, but let me just say that when he posted on Instagram about you guys and you guys will see about my team. Yeah, it was about the team, but there was also underlying insecurities he has about his own career that he was actually why he actually posted that, because he deleted it twice. But anyway, so he has his own insecurities. That's why I think he's hoping that this will work. But it's like I think Hitman X hit it on the nail. Like it's one of those situations where it can all crash and burn. And for me, I think the only way that I could see it working is this. But we're not in the bubble, but the bubble helped. Everything came together. If things came together like the bubble, and you had people who felt that they had something to prove. Obviously, the passing of the late great Kobe Bryant, my favorite player, they were locked in with that. But I think with this, if you have the Carmelo Anthony's, you have Russell Westbrook in LA, and he's like, I feel like I need to prove something. You have all these older guys like, oh, you guys think we're old? I don't think they should pick him up, and I like Isaiah Thomas, but I think he's a defensive liability. Or I know he's a defensive liability. But you pick up someone like Isaiah, oh man, they counted me out. You know what I'm saying? Like if they fed into the narrative, oh, we're being counted out, and you have all these guys with something to prove. Sometimes those are the teams that they can what's that word? They ride that wave all the way to the finals, or maybe even the championship. I think that's kind of like
hangover.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Those are the things that linger in the back of my mind.
You know
But I
LeBron
don't
gonna
think
say
it's
something stupid. I'm just gonna say this. You know LeBron gonna say something stupid because he does that. If they struggling,
definitely.
if they struggling in the conference, and he gonna probably go on Twitter or Instagram talking about get ready because the storm gonna be coming. I'm still waiting on that storm to come.
And nothing happens. Every time he says that, nothing happens. You can go back to, I think the last time, but it was when he was in his prime, like when he was just like crazy, like the apex LeBron, like 2012, 2013. It might have been when he did the 0 Dark 30. I was like, all right, but you're not in Miami anymore, right? So this is different. This is kind of like 2018. Remember when he traded like a whole team at the trade deadline? Like he had what, Rodney Hood, which he destroyed Rodney Hood. And now look at Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood's actually done better. He just had
injuries. Derrick Rose.
Kyle
Isaiah
Korver. Isaiah D. Wade.
He traded a whole team because he was unhappy that they were losing bad. Like, no, y'all wouldn't practicing together.
Right.
Isaiah Thomas was telling trip on your ass, and you didn't like it.
Hey, let me ask y'all something though. Let me ask y'all something. This for everybody. Do you think that this is gonna be a Mavericks team or like a Spurs team that won the championship beyond their primes, or do you think it's going to unfold like the Lakers with Karl Malone and Gary Payton and all them?
I think, me personally, I think it's going to unfold because I think with the Mavericks team, you had a guy in Dirk who changed the entire narrative of his career. And I believe with LeBron, it's not that, because LeBron's already, his legacy is already set in stone, right? And people either like him, love him, or hate him, but he's already, revered as one of the all-time greats. Where Dirk, that 2011 team, remember Dirk had already been an MVP. I think he won like 67 games, and he was revered as a choke artist because every time he gets to the playoffs, he would get clapped. And he lost to an 8 seed in the Warriors. And so he was actually the first James Harden effect, where it wasn't until he won that ring when everyone started to laud and applaud him. Like, we knew of his skill set offensively and what he could do, but he really needed that ring, and he tore through the Western Conference, which is still one of the greatest, if not the greatest, top two, because I have him and Akeem in terms of the runs. He had that run with that old team with the 38-year-old Jason Kidd, and they did work. But I think this, because there's not that narrative surrounding like LeBron, in terms of like legacy and all that, I think this is going to be more of that Karl Malone, that 2012, 2013, that 2018 Cavs, or not 2018 Cavs, 2017 Cavs, whichever Cavs, that he traded. I think it's going to be one of those three than the Dirk that you said, like the 2011 Mavs. So
I'm definitely not going to sleep on Dallas, because I think that with Luka resigning and what's his name, Tim Hardaway Jr., then they got Jason Kidd, who's getting all types of kind of targets right now because of the whole coaching philosophy and everything. I think that Jason Kidd, and then they moved Finley up to VP. And GM in the front office, and then they got Dirk in there, and they got some champions surrounding that whole environment. So
the organization,
bringing that pedigree around in Dallas is going to do something with Luke. And I like the fact that Jason Kidd is coming in with that element of a hard-nosed, old-school type of mentality and stuff. Listen, a lot of people, they're like, "Oh man, he's too tough, he's too hard-nosed, and all this other stuff." Look. A lot of people don't understand that.
You already see them trying to get him fired already.
Yeah, but exactly. If they can't do it with the alcohol and the domestic violence, they're gonna try to use his coaching philosophy. Well, if you think he was bad, then go check out Gary Payton's father. Go check out guys like Coach K, not Coach K, the one at Duke. There's a dude named Coach K in Oakland.
Oh yeah.
And he's like 50 times worse. So We got to stop with all this. I think it'll be good for Luka.
I'm getting sick and tired of way it is now, man. You can't coach these kids where you want to coach these kids. You gotta be pretty like Teddy Burch, Cuddly. Like, no, you can't. Come on, bro.
Yeah, you gotta coddle these stars and stuff. Now, they don't respond to actual direct approaches, and you telling them the truth, because the players have so much power now. That's what it is. They have so much power. They have power over, I understand the free agency, but they have the power over the coach they want. Like, man, it's like, okay, it's like they're the GMs. They're an extension of a GM almost, pretty much. Hey, trade this guy, fire this guy.
Ben Simmons ain't gonna go to training camp, Clark. Man, I'm like, well, take your ass on. You see what Tyrese Maxey is doing? I'd rather have him. I'd rather have some guys that at least want to come out there and want to play and try to improve.
You know what Ben Simmons is
talking about? Like they owe you something. You know what I'm saying, Lou?
Yeah. His ass to Sacramento, man. Don't give in to his command.
Minnesota or some shit.
Hey, Lou, you'll get this. You'll get this, right? So, because Lonzo's on your team, I'm gonna make a Ben Simmons little comparison or a little analogy, right? When Lonzo was, I think, in his second year, right? Because the narrative was already being set around Lonzo. Oh, he's a buzz. He's this, and I was a huge Lonzo fan because I continue to say I really believed in his potential, but I was like, it was just upstairs. So I was like, everything his dad said about him in terms of schematic, not the hyperbole stuff, but just like schematic, how he plays, what he needs to do, what he needs around him, whatever, always seemed to come through because he coached his son, so he knew him, right? So I was at my job, and I was talking to some of my coworkers, and we were breaking down like the game and everything, and I was like, some of them were kind of laughing about Lonzo, and I was like, hold up, I'm gonna give you analogy. What if I do a blind reveal? Exhibit A, Exhibit B. Exhibit A is a 6'7" point guard, right, who can defend multiple positions, right, push the ball in transition, okay, is an excellent playmaker, not a great three-point shooter, but will attempt a three, right? Exhibit B is a 6'10" point guard who can push the ball in transition, excellent playmaker, can guard multiple positions, right, isn't a great free throw shooter like Exhibit A at all, right, and not a great three-point shooter, but he won't attempt a three. Which guy would you want? All the people that were laughing on Lonzo, they picked Lonzo without knowing. I was like, Exhibit A is Lonzo. They're like, man, that's a good point. They're all like, man, that's a good point. I was like, exactly. I said the difference is the aggressive mentality. Like Ben Simmons, he actually played. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
This is what the people don't understand. Yeah, his father grew up in L.A. watching Showtime Lakers, watching Magic Johnson do his thing. Mm-hmm. I think he wanted to make his son just like Magic Johnson, putting the ball.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
But Magic Johnson was an 80-something% free throw shooter.
Yeah. Like he's never gonna be exactly Magic. Like I always saw, and that's why I said the Lonzo thing, and that's why like I'm actually happy for Lou because I
always thought this though. I think Magic Johnson was great because the system he was playing in with the Lakers when they were putting the ball, doing Showtime and playing half court offense where he didn't have to like really put up points like that. And he did put up points when he needed to, but he always got his teammates involved first before he tried to shoot. Get them in the rhythm. I think his father tried to make Alonzo that same way.
Right.
And fans like us don't see it that way. We see that he's afraid and ain't ready for the moment.
Yeah. And Magic wasn't like that. Yeah, he had the smile and all that other stuff, but he was a killer, man. He still was a killer. He might have killed in a different way from Jordan or a different way from Bird and stuff, but he wanted to win.
I'll tell you right now, if Magic was playing that type of style, the way Lonzo playing, he would be getting killed today.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, what you talking about? Him running the show?
No, if Magic was going out there not putting up buckets, but getting his teammates involved and and doing a whole lot of fast break plays, they be talking about Magic like, oh, he can't shoot. He's the bust. Like he ain't great. He playmaker. Now it's like if you're not a player out there getting buckets, that means you suck.
I mean, if we want to look at that, if they want to go ahead and they want to try to put him under a microscope like that, Lou, then okay, we still have a sprinkle of role players that are very beneficial, like specialists. Like you look at a guy like PJ Tucker, for instance. Okay, well, you don't have too many PJ Tuckers that just I'm primary defense. You maybe got PJ Tucker, maybe Pat Beverly when he got his head on straight, maybe Thibault with Philly, even Finney Smith or Richardson or somebody like that. But you don't really have. But see, back in the day, you had all types of specialists. Everybody had their main role. You know what I'm saying? You had a Dennis Rodman who was just on there just for defensive rebound. You had a guy like Dikembe Mutombo that was just going to be just a primary rim protector. You had a guy like Bruce Bowen who would hit the corner shot, and then that was it. It was like more of them back in the day. Now it's like everybody need to shoot the jumper. Everybody need to.
That's what I'm saying, Paulo. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you had guys on your team who are specialists who understand their roles. Now they don't want guys like that on the team no more. They want guys who can get buckets, put up shots, and also try to play some decent type of defense. Because today, day in bed, if you try to play defense, they're gonna call a foul in 2 seconds.
Yeah. And that's why I always said, and shout out to Ticket and LB and everything. Like I used to always tell both. I was like, I said the issue is, because I like Lonzo. I'm like, I always try to tell people. I tell people all the time, like, don't like when he's playing bad, definitely come down on him. But I'm like, the thing is, I think a lot of people got so enamored with the scoring point guards, and I understand why. Because if you guys look at the mid to late 2000s, which I actually believe since like the old age and stuff, like it was the best era because you had this crazy influx of all these point guards: Chris Paul, Derrick Rose, Deron Williams. Like I could just name numerous ones. It was like the conferences were like crazy with all these point guards, Russell Westbrook, but all of them were one thing: they were scoring point guards, right? They weren't the ilk of the Jason Kidds. They weren't the ilk of the Lonzo Balls. So when Lonzo Ball came in, he had all this hype, and people are like, yo, this dude ain't putting up 20 and 10 like John Wall. Like John Wall was like the best in the Eastern Conference before his injuries, you know. And John Wall was never the greatest shooter, but he could definitely still shoot it, and he was an elite two-way player. But like, oh man, Lonzo's not putting up 20. He must be a scrub. I'm like, no. The issue with Lonzo is he wasn't aggressive at attacking the basket like Ben Simmons was. I always gave Ben Simmons the more aggressiveness, but also the lack thereof of like his confidence and things of that nature. So I actually watched a interview, and I said, this is where I believe he's going to pay off dividends for your squad, Lou, in Chicago. The key turned with this. I was waiting for the key to turn for Lonzo. It took the trade rumors. It took the trade rumors for him to start to play better, which is crazy. After I think like this is his third, fourth season, and then the LaMelo Ball thing was the one that lit the fire. It lit the fire because they were playing. It was right before their first game. There was an interview, and I said, "This is the difference between LaMelo and Lonzo." They asked Lonzo Ball. They said, "These two women were like, okay." If you could pick your all-time starting five, who would it be, right? And so they all pick like Magic, Bird, KD, LeBron, whatever, etc., right? Well, Lonzo did. And LaMelo was like, you're not going to pick yourself? And he kind of sucked his teeth. I was like, wow, this is all-time starting five. And Lonzo kind of like shyly, he's like, oh, I didn't know we could pick ourselves. And LaMelo was like, I always pick myself. He literally said it like that. He's always picked myself. And then the rest of his five was the same. And I kind of smirked and kind of light bulbing off. I was like, that's the difference. LaMelo, say what you want about LeVar. LaMelo takes after LeVar from the confidence standpoint. And I'm not bashing parents or anything like that. But Lonzo, he's more reserved, like, obviously the mother, and that's fine, but he's just reserved. Like, but that fire's not like that, right? And that after that interview, they played the game and LaMelo cooked Lonzo. And that is one thing you just don't do. You don't let the younger brother cook you. He has to earn his rite of passage. From that point on, LaMelo was in the headlines. He was elevating the team. And I was like, I hope that Lonzo Ball learns from this, because his fan base, and I'm part of it, his fan base believes in him more than he believes in himself. And so once LaMelo Ball started cooking, all of a sudden you saw this crazy turn from Lonzo in the second half of the season, and the dude was balling out. He bet on himself when people laughed at him. He bet on himself. He got a contract with the Chicago Bulls, a good contract. And now Zach LaVine, a nice young piece, gets a point guard that he said he wanted. I want a pass first point guard, and I want a dominant big. That's what he said when he set up on First Take. So if Lonzo can remain healthy, I believe he's going to play dividends. But I think that key that turned it was the emergence of LaMelo Ball entering the league and pretty much having to cook his ass, you know what I'm saying, and seeing the praise and adulation that happened to his younger brother. And he loves his younger brother, but he's like, all right, I got to step my game up. So that's kind of what I see about Lonzo, guys.
I think, you know what, I think this.
The thing about LaMelo,
I don't think that
LaMelo. Hey, hold on.
Yeah,
the thing about LaMelo was,
I think LB talking. My bad.
And he didn't come in the league starting, because you know Jordan on that team, he had to pretty much earn his right to get that start.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He had to earn that right, and then when he earned it, he came in, earned it, was willing to learn, and all that. And you know, and as you can see, everything that you pointed out, Kai Clark, about him getting cooked by his younger brother, definitely lit the fire under that ass. But to me, what turned it was the trade rumor. When they, the trade rumors, what to me is when he got the picture and shit, right? Shout out to the homie Too Raw for TV in the building. Matter of fact,
salute.
I'm gonna let you come in, Too Raw. You can cook on this.
Salute, Too Raw.
Right, that's the confidant, right? That's the homie right there. You know what I'm saying? For real. But yeah, because even when he got cooked by LaMelo, that ain't lit the fire under him. From what I saw, because he was
not right away. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't. Yeah. He had the same type of body language. I agree with you. it really didn't.
Rumors, the threat to him getting traded, that would lit the fire under Lonzo. What's up, Gemini?
Because he was linked to the clip. Go ahead, my bad. Yeah.
No, you got it, Clark.
He was linked to the Clippers.
I was gonna say this. You know, another thing that really made, I think, Lonzo look, and I'm not gonna say look bad, but made his brother kind of hold him. You know, his brother kind of took the pedestal, so to speak, from him, and kind of took that extra level. Is he gave his brother opportunity, LiAngelo. If he's able to do that and extend his hand and be like, you know, hey, LiAngelo, and then ends up getting signed, that's going to be monumental, and that's going to make LaMelo look even more better, because it's like, okay, you gave your brother an opportunity, you know, by coming in here, you know, rubbing shoulders with the guys in Charlotte and everything, and then they was able to go ahead and see what this guy could do. He came in, played in the summer league, and he did better than everybody expected.
Yeah, he really did. He really did. And I hope that LiAngelo can make the team. That would be like really, really like amazing if he actually made the Charlotte Hornets. But yeah, what Lonzo, you know, extending the hand, and I think was kind of not really spoken about is they fixate on, you know, one of the guys all the time. So, it's LaMelo, it's Lonzo, it's LiAngelo. But this is support system that they have as a whole family is key. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think them supporting each other and wanting to see them succeed. It's just all about putting in that work. I think the biggest disappointment for me, guys, the one thing that Lonzo did disappoint me in before, you know, he started to turn it around. You remember the bubble? And I think you guys all cooked on it and cooked on him in the bubble. The bubble, and the reason why I bring up the bubble, because obviously the bubble had different effects on a lot of people. But Lonzo, you know, I see him on IG, he was working out, whatever, and I'm like, I hope he's working on his game, because you can lift weights or whatever. That's not going to do anything. Like, and he was actually playing good prior to the bubble, because remember him and Zion, they went on They went on that like crazy, like they were on a win streak or something like that. They were playing good for whatever that month was. Then the layoff, they come back, and this dude, he looked he. It's not even dejected. He was just like out of it. Like he wasn't being aggressive. He was playing poorly. He was getting cooked by the media. He was getting cooked on here. He was getting cooked everywhere, and rightfully so. And that was the biggest disappointment for me. And I felt like LeVar, because LeVar came out, said some things, you know what I'm saying? Like it was crazy because it's like, bro, you let a lot of people just down, bro, because you had an opportunity to come in a bubble situation. You know what I'm saying? And cook fools. And I'm like, you ain't cooking fools then. But now what he's doing, and I like the path that he is on. It's just consistency, because people used to hit me up all the time on all types of social media, like, yo, you see your boy, man, he balling. And I would literally say this. I was like, with all due respect, I love Lonzo. You know what I'm saying? I love what he can be, but I don't care if he has a good game. I don't care, respectfully, if he has a good week or 2 weeks. I want to see him put a good month together, put a half a season together, have real consistency. Anyone can have a good game. Anyone can have a good week. You know what I'm saying? But it's now he needs to be consistent, because there's a whole lot of other NBA players or potential NBA players that were robbed of the opportunity to play in this league. And not only do you have the opportunity to play in this league, but you have an opportunity to start. You know what I'm saying? And you're playing at the hardest position in all of basketball, the most important position of all of basketball. So there's a level of decorum that comes with that you need to, exude on the court. And in the coaches giving you, 30 plus minutes a game. So I'm like, until he has a level of consistency, man, I'm not impressed. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, you let your fan base down that believed in you more than you believed in yourself. You know what I'm saying? So now that he's on the Bulls, for me, this is kind of like, hey, breakout season for him, because he's had breakout moments, maybe a month or so every now and then. But this is where I think like Lonzo could really break out. So I'm definitely looking to see what he does this season. I'm sending well wishes to his health. I hope he can stay healthy. You know what I'm saying? I hope Zach LaVine can stay healthy for that team. That's not my favorite team or anything, but I just like to see those young guys, really, really flourish. So we'll see what happens with Lonzo and that team over there. So that's kind of my piece that I wanted to say on that.
All right, too, Raw. Salute to the homie. You know what I'm saying? Hey, so we talk about the most overrated free agency signing of this period right here, right? We hadn't talked about Evan Fournier, because Evan Fournier got Gemini talked about this in the comment section. Mm-hmm. We hadn't talked about the Knicks signing Evan Fournier. I thought that move was overrated too. But what you got on this? What you think was most overrated as far as free agency go in the NBA?
Can you hear me? First of all.
Yeah, you sound good, okay. Man. You good?
Yeah, you good too.
No, because I have like some type of audio issue with my phone. I have to put my earplugs in for people to hear me. I'm talking with my earplugs, but man, most overrated free agent. Well, I would think it had to be somebody that is being like highly touted as like a game changer. It could be Lonzo Ball. You could make an argument that if it doesn't work out, it could be, and I'm only saying this because of the possibility that this is a guy I like. It could ultimately be Westbrook, because if you, and I know it sounds funny coming from me, because I love Russell Westbrook, but the way that Lakers Nation is talking and the way that the media is carrying it, he's now all of a sudden a top 5 player in the NBA, when for the most part he's been talked about as if he's washed up. So that could potentially be the most overrated. As far as like just the perception versus what he's actually going to contribute with the Lakers. But I don't know, man. It could be Lonzo because of the track record.
They're giving him what would they sign him for? Was it 4 year, $85 million?
That sounds about right. I think it was a 4 year, $85 million. It was. I know it was like 80 something.
I think it was 4 years, $85 million. There's some people say he's not worth 21 plus a year. I think that Lonzo Ball. I listen to what y'all been saying about him, and I agree. You look at where he once was a very highly touted overall pick. People were comparing him to other great players in the league, and a lot of that was hyperbole, of course. But the perception was that he was going to be, at least a top 15 player in the NBA at one point in time, or top 10. And obviously he's not that. And I think the turnaround happened, like what y'all was saying, is when his job was threatened. His job security as a starting point guard was threatened because he wasn't working out in New Orleans. They stopped using him as the primary ball handler in New Orleans after a while. Even though he was making improvements in his game, but it was a time when it looked like his days as an NBA player were going to be seriously threatened, and he wasn't going to be in the NBA another 2 or 3 years. But he's made a lot of improvements. The most significant improvements have been his outside shooting, his decision making, and his consistency. Most of all, his consistency. Right. That's been the main thing that people have complained about, including myself, is that, okay, yeah, it's fine. He might have a game where he has 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. And, maybe even 2 games averaging 28 and 8. That's great. But then he'll have 4 or 5 awful or so-so games. And that's not a remarkableness. I'm not saying a great player doesn't have bad games. Of course they do. But over the course of a month, over the course of a season, you generally see great overall play. And you weren't seeing that from Lonzo Ball. Now you're seeing that more consistently. I don't think Lonzo Ball is going to be an all-star level point guard. If he is next year, that's a great surprise. And then we have to look at him even differently. But I do think that he's going to have a good season with Chicago. I think he's going to take the most of his opportunity. I think, and I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, I think he's probably going to average at least 7.5 assists with the Bulls. I give him 7.5 assists. If he average more than that, he's having a great year. I hope he stays healthy. I hope the Bulls have health. I hope that Levine is healthy. I hope that the situation with DeRozan, Levine, and Vucevic and all the guys on the court together, I hope that works out. But as far as the most overrated free agent, I hadn't really thought about that. That's a good topic, man.
Yeah.
No, because when people ask me that, I have to look at it like not just somebody who I think isn't that great and get a lot of money. I look at somebody who's being like talked about a lot, like, oh man, this is going to change the franchise, So it might be Lonzo, but we'll see. To me, I think it's going to have to come across to next year. You know what I'm saying? We'll see what transpires next year. I think we'll have a better understanding of who was the most overrated. You know what I'm saying? But that's all I got on that one.
I definitely hear you, and you make excellent points, especially one about the consistency thing we were talking about. That's for I definitely agree with you there. And with the overrated, I think with you mentioning Russ was actually that's a really good one too, because you put it based off of how the Laker lore, Laker fans, all that whole entire fan base is kind of speaking about him as if they got the second coming of Magic or something like that.
Right. Yeah, some of them are a little bit unrealistic, and what I think when they thinking, they look at YouTube highlight reels and get amped up and see Westbrook at his best. And I love Russell Westbrook, but there are some games where he's also Russell Westbrook, the one that we don't like. So it's like it's that's a possibility. especially considering that you're gonna see that talked about more on ESPN, and you're gonna see that more talked about on social media. That particular, even though that was more actually a trade, not a free agent signing, but still, that is something that's gonna is a candidate. If Ben Simmons does get traded, that's the one that'll pop in my mind first. You know, even though, like I said, that's not a free agent signing per se, but still, that's a
big move,
acquisition. You know, right. So if that happens, that would be the first one to pop in my mind, because I don't trust that guy anymore, man.
Right.
I don't trust Ben Simmons to improve. I actually believe he's regressed from his first season, from his first full year. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing about Ben Simmons. Another guy, because I like Lonzo, but Ben Simmons was another guy whose potential I like based off of LSU. Like when I watched him at LSU, I was like, oh, that's an NBA player. Because I remember he played a game. I think it was against like Providence or Xavier, like his first game of the season, and he balled out. And I think everyone remembers that game. But the issue with him was some of that passiveness he had at the time, but he really just didn't want to play for the NCAA. So I was like, all right, so I brushed it off. But me and my homie, we always talked about this. Too Raw was he used to always not get on me, but he used to always kind of tell me, he's like, yo, Kai, he's like, I'm telling you now, if you notice Ben Simmons, a lot of the things that the reason why he doesn't really like improving stuff, he's like super, super Hollywood. And I'm like, that's true. Like he's more into the Hollywood stuff than actually improving. And I was like, if you notice when he got the All-Star bid, and he got the contract, I was like, that was the worst thing that they could have done when they gave him that extension, was because Kobe Bryant came out, said, get a jump shot. And he pretty much brushed Kobe Bryant aside because he thought that, hey, you know, I'm cool with how I play, blah, blah, blah. That was the first red flag. Red flags, red lights went off in my head. And he made an All-Star game without making improvements to his game. And I was like, if you give him that contract extension without going to the front office and having to sit down with him and saying, hey, look, if you don't get your if you don't improve your jump shot, we're going to trade you. Yes, as a GM, you can say things like that. Then everything's going to go bad, right? And they didn't tell him that, apparently, and it's like I felt that he was getting rewarded like honors and stuff for things that he didn't really earn. Not saying that he's a bad player, but it's like, dude, you're not really. Ben Simmons is one of those players that you watch and you're like, bro, I see nothing different from him every single year. Like the potential, like I've seen him guard the 1 through 5, it's great. But in the playoffs, he's a liability. He's a half court liability. And it's just like
my bad, Clark. Too raw. I think JMJ trying to get in.
Oh, okay.
My bad, Clark.
No, it's cool. Yeah, it's like he's all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to give him another chance. And I'm gonna bring up the Warriors thing. I was like, okay, I'll tell people, I was like, I figured Ben Simmons out. I figured how you can make him reach like his optimal level, what I call his optimal level. Yeah, he's a great playmaker, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has to play make from the point guard position. I'm like, listen to this. And I know Ticket actually mentioned this on the other channel. So we were actually kind of had the same line of thinking. I was like, but I always said put him at a small ball center. I was like, why? When he's 6'10", he's played in the post before at LSU because Antonio Blakeney, a guy called by the name of Antonio Blakeney, was their point guard at times, right? So if Ben Simmons was playing the 4, he could play the 5 too. Put him at the small ball 5 with the Warriors, and now on switches, no point guard wants to see him because I've seen him chase Dame around. I've seen him chase Luka around, but Dame's smaller. He can guard 1 through 5. He can rebound. He's real athletic. Oh, he can get the rebound and push the ball on the break. He can play make from the post. Ben Simmons, I understand why the Warriors are linked to him, and they're kind of flirting with the Ben Simmons, like all googly eye. Let's get Ben Simmons, but the problem is things that you can't, that what we call you guys understand what I'm saying, is that can't be calculated on like an Excel spreadsheet. Are like chemistry, is IQ, defensive IQ, is communication, leadership. All those things Draymond Green has. I know some people don't like Draymond Green, but I've seen it multiple times in the Warriors championships dynasty. I've seen it very now with the Olympics. when he got on KD, when he got on some of those players for missing certain assignments, and then pointing certain things out, and like them making an adjustment, and everything went well, right? And that gold medal game, like these are the little nuggets and intricacies of the game that Draymond Green sees that other players don't see. Some of the leadership that he actually does bring. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a fan of everything he says, but those are the things that are invaluable that Ben Simmons doesn't bring to the table. So if you get rid of Draymond Green for the younger Ben Simmons, I think on paper it looks cool. But once the playoff comes, you know what I'm saying? I think that's where you start to have problems with Ben Simmons, because he himself hasn't really unlocked and turned that key, because I think he's too caught up in the Jenners and all that other Hollywood, type stuff. And I think I'm trying to say in kind of being long-winded that he needs to have get some act right. You know what I'm saying? In his system.
Yeah, I know
he just doesn't have it.
I know what you're saying. Like you said, Draymond Green is the best player on that team.
Right.
But he's their vocal leader. He's the guy that's been their motor. And if you trade him, who takes that role? Because, I mean, first of all, Ben Simmons is still only, 24 years old?
Yeah.
At 24? Okay. Yep. So if you trade Draymond Green, who then becomes their de facto leader? I mean, I guess you would say Curry, but is that really his role? Is he comfortable being that type of leader? Can he, is it Clay? Who becomes more of the vocal leader out there? It's not going to be Wiggins.
Did Iggy re-sign Tura with him? Iggy
yeah, you know what? I think he did resign.
Yeah, I think
good point.
Yeah, I believe it would be Iggy, but Draymond, okay. I think with Draymond is he brings it on and off the court, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's where they would, And I'm actually, since you're here, I kind of want your take on the Warriors. I think the Warriors are not necessarily a bad position, actually. I think with Clay, that's the thing that's kind of sad, because I like Clay, because Clay is always the guy that I always said was their fire starter in terms of just the on-court play. That was more clutch than Curry on that team, but that's a whole other conversation. I think they're in an interesting position, because I talked to some of my boys about this, and I like when you develop guys, when you have the Wisemans and you have potential. I don't like when people trade things away, but I could also see them getting a Pascal Siakam. I think they put themselves in a position where they could make a move at the trade deadline if they want to for contention. They could do a couple different things, but you personally, where do you, as currently constructed, where do you see the Golden State Warriors in the grand scheme of things in terms of next year possibilities? Do you think they can contend? Do you think they're more of a middle of the road team? Do you think they should keep a Wiseman, or do you think they should trade? What is your personal opinion on them? And you don't have to make a prediction on the record or anything. But
right. That's kind of I ain't gonna make a prediction on the record, but. Right. If you look at the fact that they were literally a couple of Draymond Green layups away from making the playoffs with the play-in tournament, so without Klay Thompson, they were close to making the playoffs. The thing I remember about the Warriors team 2 years ago, when they didn't have Curry or Klay, is that and for long stretches Draymond, they were just a horrible fucking team. They were just horrible. I think they were the worst team in the NBA. Or top two. Last year, defensively, the Warriors were not that bad. They weren't that bad, if I remember correctly, defensively. They weren't a bad team. It's that offensively, sometimes they struggled. And if Curry wasn't having those performances, which necessitated him winning his second scoring title, they weren't going to win most of those games. Now, if you bring Klay, with Klay coming back offensively, of course, that helps. With just him and also spacing. Just Klay coming back, just from the offensive standpoint, should help that team to at least be I give them at least lowest fifth seed, maybe fourth.
Okay. Okay.
I put them somewhere in that range. Now, if they make some further moves, just based upon the fact that they still have, a good core, you know what I'm saying? And they're still I think they're still a really good team. The fact that team almost made the playoffs, I think is still pretty impressive. I think next year, now a lot of it depends upon Klay. Like, I don't know if Klay's going to be the same guy on both ends, both sides of the ball. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that even if Klay is 75% of what he was, they should still be a playoff team. They should still at least be a 4th or 5th seed. I think.
Because 75% Klay isn't Kyle Korver. He's better than that. Like,
right.
This is Klay Thompson. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and also his game offensively is not predicated on athleticism. So he should still be pretty close to Klay Thompson on the offensive end. He'll get there. I'm not saying he'll come right back and average 20-some points a game, but he'll get there.
Right.
But as far as where they're going to end up, it depends upon their health. It depends upon chemistry. It depends upon the moves they make. Like it's presently constructed, I give them that. But if they do acquire a guy like Ben Simmons, or like you said, they do get another piece like Pascal Siakam, maybe it's higher. But the thing about it, this isn't the same Western Conference from 3 or 4 years ago. This is a much more competitive Western Conference than it was when the Warriors were winning 73 and 67 and when they had Kevin Durant early on. It's more, you got the Lakers. The Phoenix Suns just went to the finals. They just re-signed Chris Paul. You got the Utah Jazz who, if they ever can, diversify their offense and not just have one guy shoot the ball all the time and make some improvements. You got them. I mean, you got other teams. Houston sucks right now, so I'm not going to put them in.
Yeah, they're rebuilding. Yeah,
they're rebuilding. They only can go up.
Right. They got did they get my bad? Did they get Jalen Green right?
I don't know if they got Jalen Green. Did they get him?
I think they did. I'm not sure. If someone in the comment section knows, if they got Jalen Green, just let me know. But if they got Jalen Green, I could be wrong. But that dude is nice.
Right, so they only can go up. Then you got Denver. So basically, what I'm saying is more competitive. So the days of them winning 60-something games, I don't think is in the cards right now. But yeah, I think they're definitely getting the playoffs next year. And I think they'll probably be like middle-ish, fourth, fifth.
Oh, so DJ down and DJ said they did, and then Donald Lewis said Klay will miss half the season. I'm not sure if that's confirmed, but I think he might have had some type of setback again, because I remember someone had mentioned that earlier. I read something about that, but I do agree with you. Regardless, that with the Warriors, I think they're what I call a sleeper team that some things have to go right for them, and they can make some moves. I'm actually for me too, Raw. There's I think just kind of how I'm kind of like seeing it. I know it's early. Season starts in October though, so I'm actually excited. I think the 5 seed, the 6 seed, and the 7 seed are going to be very, very intriguing. Tight. Here's why. I think that the Warriors will be in that mix there. I think they're going to rise if things go right. I think they could be, around that area. I think because we talked earlier before you got on, all the moves the Lakers made, any positive can also be nullified. I think it's like they're that one team where it's like, well, this could go, but then this kind of pulls them back, and this can go. And then you got the chemistry with Russ and LeBron. So I could see them being good enough to be a 5, but I don't really see them higher because the age, the chemistry, anything, or they could just drop to like 8 or something. And then another team I'm not counting out. I don't care what people say. My favorite player actually plays on the team, but that's not why I'm picking it. Is I believe that the Clippers, they're dangerous because I believe in the West they are the deepest. They're the deepest team. They have a Reggie Jackson that had 9 20-point games in the playoffs. You have a Terrence Mann who said, in his exit interview, next year I'm coming back. Harder than before. Terrence Mann, he's amazing. You have the French connection in Ibaka and Batum. If Ibaka stays healthy, you have Marcus Morris. I think their issue is Zubac. He can't coddle rebounds. I think Zubac needs to be traded from that team. He's not a bad player, but he gives you nothing on the defensive end on switches. Get like a Miles Turner or somebody. I don't know. That's gonna be hard to get, but they need somebody. And Paul George, too raw. I've been trying to tell people this for like the last 2 years. Who get on him, and you get on him when he has a bad game, but he really played well in postseason last year. But it's this. I think a lot of people expected Paul George because of the projection to be Kawhi Leonard, Scottie Pippen, like a MJ light, Scottie Pippen light. But if you notice, Paul George, that's never been his game. That's more of a Jimmy Butler's game. Paul George is a guy who creates his own shot and is a rhythm player. When he gets hot, literally nobody, and he's not KD or anything, but when he's hot, you just can't stop him. And if you look what he did in OKC, the year that he averaged 28 points per game, was top 3 in both Defensive Player of the Year and MVP voting. Russell Westbrook, the second half, he's like, wait a second. If I defer to Paul George, we win games. He kept deferring to Paul George, and they were winning games. And
I remember that. At one point, they were third in the Western Conference before he got hurt.
Yeah. That was crazy. I actually had him as an MVP that year. I know James Harden rightfully deserved it, but he was my MVP because I value two-way players. But they went to the bubble and people were like, yo, why would you use an example of the bubble? I'll tell you why. That was when he played worse, right? Exactly. Mm-hmm. But it proves my point because the game he had 35 points, right? Doc Rivers or somebody in the organization made a concerted effort to run the offense through Paul George. They were like, okay, every time they came down the court, they gave Paul George a ball, go to work. This dude murked the Dallas Mavericks, had 35 points that game, right? They won by like 15, right? And the very next game, they didn't run the offense through him because he's a rhythm player. Just like Dame, you have to run the offense through him. That doesn't mean he's the best player on the team. People have to understand basketball. Every single time the Clippers would blow out a team during the regular season, it was only when they ran the offense through Paul George because he's not a Scottie Pippen player. So now it's like Ty Lue needed to see that when Kawhi got injured. So in the offseason, and you know that Kawhi is not – he resigned, but he's not going to be on the court until maybe April. I think he comes back in April. This is the best chance where they can mess around, retain a 6 seed. Kawhi comes back in April, and he likes the playoffs. That's all he plays for. I know he's not an MVP during the regular season, but because he doesn't care. I'm just going to be honest. He don't care. You know, he low bandages. He comes back, and they're dangerous to me. You know what I'm saying? Because if he didn't get injured, I believe that they were going to the NBA Finals versus Brooklyn. They have the 3-point shooting, but Brooklyn is too overpowered offensively where they would beat them in like 5 games. So I think a team like the Lakers 5, Clippers could be 6, Warriors could be 7. I just really think from 5, like anywhere from 5 to 8, those teams I believe could be a little more dangerous than the cream of the crop because of what you said about Utah. Utah is a team that jacks up a lot of threes, has 2 players who are good, but they play hero ball in Jordan Clarkson.
They're regular season teams that, you know, they do good in the regular season, but they're too predictable, and that costs them in the playoffs, yeah.
Right, like, and you know how it is with 3-point shooters that can't put the ball on the floor. You press up against them in the playoffs, and they resort back to like junior varsity offense. Right. I think with the Phoenix Suns though, and I got to give Hitman X his respect down there. The Phoenix Suns, they're the exception of a young team that I do believe they are real come playoff time. Yes, there was injuries, but injuries happen it's part of basketball. What I like about the Phoenix Suns too, Raw, is they have some of that old school model of how to build a team. You have your playmaking point guard, you have your shot creation 2-wing, and you have your dominant big down low. So I give credence to the Phoenix Suns, where I do believe that the Phoenix Suns are a top 3 seed next year, that they're a team that actually should be reckoned with, and because a lot of teams don't have anything, any answer for DeAndre Ayton. I think the issue with Phoenix is always Chris Paul's health. So it's like, can you have enough backing up Chris Paul? I know they have Cameron Payne, but if you can get enough of Chris Paul, if you can get, some of something for Saric being injured, make little changes there. And Monty Williams is a good head coach. I believe Phoenix Suns is probably the one team that wasn't necessarily a fluke last year, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And the Western Conference, while it may not be the same when the Warriors, like you're saying, when they're a 73-win team, the Western Conference isn't stronger than the Eastern Conference right now. So I think any of these teams could kind of emerge. So that's kind of how I'm looking at the conference.
What's your take on Dallas for next year?
I really, and I'll do honestly, Dallas has not impressed me. I think Dallas is going to slip low because Luka doesn't have a secondary star, like a true secondary star. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's funny because me and my big bro, we had this conversation yesterday. Literally, we had this conversation. If Luka had someone like Anthony Davis, I'm sure everyone would love to have Anthony Davis. But Luka, based off the way he plays, if he had a 4 or a big like Anthony Davis, he'd be perfect. He needs someone that can stretch the floor, can create his own shot, and can defend his backside. Because Luka gets cooked on defense, right? All the time. Kawhi cooked him, everyone cooked him. If he had someone like that who could play defense and get his own shot, but could stretch the floor with his 3-point shooting, he'd be good, man. But the problem with Luka, I think that us as basketball connoisseurs and fans is I don't think anyone really knows. At least I haven't heard anybody yet. Maybe someone in the comment section could like comment on it. What piece is available to pair with Luka? I think for the Mavericks, it's the lack of availability because I think everyone kind of got signed up, and I'm like, I don't even can't fathom who that piece is, and I kind of feel sad because I think Luka's a great player. I think he cries too much though, which I can't stand. But I want to see him still succeed because I don't really like watching great players get knocked out in the first round over and over again because it becomes repetitive. You know what I'm saying? So maybe and I'll let you go, but who they could get, but I don't really know what piece they could pair him with right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
no.
That's me. Like,
no,
yeah, that's how I feel.
And usually I could think of somebody, but
yeah, like I like Porter Jr., but he's injury prone. He can get you 20 easily, but he's injury prone. Not a great defender. But I love me some Porter Jr. Yeah, like I think they put their eggs in the Kristaps Porzingis basket. Like Hitman said, he is a first option on most teams, but Porzingis isn't unlocked like that, man. Like, and I remember a regular season game. You might remember this when LeBron played Luka in Dallas, and Dallas was up, I think, like 12 or 14 points near the end of the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter came, and Luka was missing shots. None of his teammates were making shots. Luka was complaining about getting fouled when he wasn't getting fouled. They had a chance to put the Lakers away. LeBron was just coasting during the entire game. And Porzingis, every single time down the court, did not care or call for the ball. I swear, I'm not making this up. He was just running up and down the court like he didn't care. And LeBron was like, okay, I'm just going to take over the game. I'm like, I gave you guys all this time. And he literally just destroyed them. He maybe can't necessarily do that as much anymore. But that year, because it was like a year ago, he literally destroyed them. And like that's when I knew for me, too raw, that I was like, Porzingis isn't it. He has skill, but it's like it's the mentality for me about him.
Yeah, I think he mentally checked out. He mentally checked out sometime maybe early last year or something.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, who they have. And Donald Lewis, you're right. Mark Cuban better throw his money around more to get what Luka needs. Yeah. Maybe there's someone in the draft because I think obviously and maybe they might just have to go the draft route or whatever. Luka does have youth on his side. I think people forget he's what, 21, about to be 22 or just turned 22, which is
I think he's still 21.
Right. So shoot, maybe they just go through the draft. I think that might be one of the the greatest leeways they have with Luka is they were able to, I don't want to say sucker him into, signing whatever, but okay, you retained him, right? So you have him for the long term. And knowing that his age is like, okay, I know you want to win, but we just may have to do it this way and get someone from the draft, like get the best player in the draft. Maybe we get you an Amani Bates, because I know OKC tried to get, I thought OKC was going to get like Amani Bates when he comes out, or Cade Cunningham. They tried to and didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? So maybe OKC.
I didn't want to interrupt you. Let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Even though he's not available, they signed him. We signed him. How do you think a John Collins would fit on the Dallas Mavericks?
Ooh, I love it. He can shoot, and he can run that pick and roll.
Right.
And he's a high energy guy.
Right.
I think who actually plays great in the playoffs. So I actually like him more than I like Porzingis.
Right. Yeah, I was observing, kind of think about it, and I was, watching this last year's playoffs. Mm-hmm. I really like John Collins with the even though I was rooting for the Bucks, I like John Collins' game. I like his approach. Mm-hmm. He's tenacious. I can see he's competitive, and he rises his level of play, like you said, with the opportunity, with the situation. So
yeah,
I can see him helping Dallas, but of course he's not available. So it's like,
right.
But
yeah, if he could become available, I could definitely see it. And I know before you got on, we mentioned the Hawks. Me, LB, Lou, we were talking about the Hawks, and I told them, I was like, the Atlanta Hawks, I believe, are a dangerous team, a team that is to be reckoned with, because we were kind of talking about, okay, standings in the East and what they could do in the playoffs and different things like that. I said that now that we're going to have a normal season, God forbid, like anything happens, with COVID or anything like that, we're going to have an 82-game season. And I said the teams that have depth, the teams that have youth, and teams that are well coached always rise to the top, right? Because you have older teams, they rest their players. You have star teams tend to make more strategic things with jockeying and position and stuff like that. And I said after the Hawks fired their head coach, I keep forgetting his name, so I apologize for that.
Lloyd Pierce.
Yeah, Lloyd Pierce. Yep, Lloyd Pierce. Thank you, LB. Once they fired him and they replaced him with Nate McMillan, their win total increased. Everything, the team bought in, and they finished, I believe, weren't they the 5 seed behind the Knicks? They finished as a 5 seed behind the Knicks, right? And that was just half. That's pretty much like what I forgot how many games there was. It wasn't even a full season. So you look at that, and I'm gonna be honest, I like Julius Randle. I was a huge fan of Julius Randle, but the Knicks, they're not better than the Hawks right now. Like, no one believes that. So I can see them moving up 2 spots in the conference standings as a like a 3 seed. They might even win as a 1 seed, stuff like that. And they've proven that they can shoot with the Brooklyn Nets. They were never scared of the Brooklyn Nets whenever they played against them. I'm not saying they would beat the Brooklyn Nets, but they have Clint Capella, who someone who was on the panel earlier mentioned that he led the league in rebounding, and people forget how
he quietly led the league in rebounding. Yeah.
Thank you, Turo. Like, and I told them, if you ask anybody on the street, like, who's the leading rebounder in the NBA, most fans don't even know it's Clint Capella. You know what I'm saying?
Drummond, right?
Right. yeah. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Drummond. But it's crazy, because I was like, you literally have 5 to 6, I think even 7 guys who are like, if you look at Basketball Reference, their roster, they all like score in double digits. And that was like without DeAndre Hunter in the playoffs. Like, how do you have that many double-digit scorers that know their role, that buy into their role, and you have a 6-man in Lou Will, who signed probably his last deal, 1-year contract. And unlike Utah, who has guys that can score in double digits, you have more of them on the Hawks, and you don't have people playing hero ball. It's that pick and roll that Trae Young does that you just can't stop. And then you're not really stopping him in isolation. Kevin Huerter, sharpshooter from University of Maryland, College Park. Like, the Hawks are just a really, really good, well-constructed team. and we are pretty much saying that we believe that they could be a team that could make some noise.
Yeah, they can. I want to play devil's advocate for one thing with the Hawks, though.
Okay.
One thing they had going for them this year was the expectations game. They didn't really have pressure per se on them like that.
True.
You know what I'm saying? They didn't really have that pressure on them. This year, there's going to be expectations because of how well they played in the playoffs. They weren't on anybody's radar, you know, for the most part, as far as a team that, you know, could contend at least for the conference championship. I'll just say that. And,
yeah,
you know, most people, when I remember this, when people were anticipating the Bucks playing the Hawks, most people said, man, I think the Bucks are going to sweep this team. Even me, I said, I think the Bucks will win in 5. I thought it'd be a relatively easy series. It wasn't an easy series. The Bucks won in 6, I believe, but it wasn't an easy 6. It wasn't.
Right.
And it could have easily went to, and you could say the Bucks benefited from Trae Young's injury, you know, even though Giannis got injured as well. Okay, so this year is going to be expectations on this team. Another thing that you could say, too, is they did benefit from the implosion with the 76ers and the liability that you know what I'm saying, that Ben Wallace being a half-court liability, not wanting to score, not wanting to shoot the basketball, not being able to shoot free throws. They benefited from that. And then another thing that struck me with the Hawks this year is they did cough up a lot of games. And this could be just the youth and lack of experience and pressure, but I did notice that they lost quite a few home games.
Okay.
This year. Now they went to Philly and beat them, and then I can't remember the spread anymore, but I think they didn't they beat Milwaukee at Milwaukee?
I can't really say for sure. They might have though. Yeah.
I can't remember each game anymore, but I definitely know they went into Philly and beat them multiple times. But all in all, Atlanta to me should be at least a top 4 team in the East this year. At the very least. At the very least. But to me, it's almost like the record is secondary now. You know, back in the day, the first seed was usually the best team, or the top 2 seeds were the best teams. And a lot of times now, injuries play a role, monotony. Sometimes some teams, they play to level of competition more. You see that more. A team could be the 3rd or 4th seed, but then come playoff time, boom, they're the best team in the NBA, or at least the best team in the conference, or they're playing the best basketball going right into the playoffs. So a lot of times, to me, as long as you just have a decent seeding, it may not matter if you're a first seed. So the Hawks will be a threat. I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, because like back in the day, you know, you had the Spurs back in the day with Tim Duncan and all them in the early 2000s. Because I'm a millennial, so I got a chance to watch like the 3-peat Lakers and all that. You had the Lakers, those teams like that, and then the Eastern Conference. You had teams like the Nets when Jason Kidd was there. You had teams like the Pacers and the Pistons. Like the Pistons, and the thing was the Pistons is they went to 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals, which is crazy. That was crazy, right. You know. But their record was indicative of how good they really were because it proved in the playoffs, right? You know, where now, you know, injuries play a role with the way I think Jalen Rose made a great point. Star players, they don't play 82 games anymore, right?
No.
Now, I personally like when players play every game, but also because I'm also very open-minded too, I understand why some of them don't. My issue is when you're not necessarily hurt and it's the middle of the season, not the end of the season, and you just chilling. Like that, I don't understand that line of thinking. But he said that, you know, with the injuries and now players are able to play longer, which is true. And it's cool because I saw, like, you know, Kobe, you know, rest in peace. I saw my favorite player break down, you know what I'm saying? So you're going to have, it will pay off later, you know, in terms of like longevity. So But that affects the regular season standings and the seedings. But yeah, at worst, I think the Hawks would be a top 4 seed. And when we talk about at worst, that's amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think them. And we were talking, and I know the title of this was like overrated free agent signing. For me, I'm gonna say it, and Knicks fans don't get upset with me. I believe both their signings were overrated. Not bad though. What I mean by that is this. I believe that the New York Knicks, when they got Kemba Walker, I didn't understand it because I was like, I thought they were in the running for Dame. And then it's like everything died down. So, or they realized they couldn't get Dame or something like that, you know, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But if we're being real, if your aspiration is to contend for an NBA championship, even though they wouldn't win it because Brooklyn, Milwaukee are still better teams. But if your aspiration is to contend, you do everything in your power to find a way to pry Damian Lillard from New York. And then you get Evan Fournier. The reason why I say they're overrated is because Kemba Walker, on paper, with him, it's always about on paper. He's going to give you about 19 to 20 points, right? He can create his own shot. He's going to cook people, cross them up, etc. You know what I'm saying? He's not the best 3-point shooter, but he can hit it. You know what I'm saying? And that's all good. And he's in Madison Square Garden, the same garden where he had his legendary shot as a member of UConn during, I believe, the tournament, or the Big East tournament. So I'm like, all that set up where I think in the regular season, he's going to look good. He's going to cook. He's going to give fans oohs and ahs, right? Mm-hmm. But then you have the issue with Kemba is he can never stay healthy, and he doesn't elevate his level of play in the playoffs. And we saw that in Boston, right? And I kept telling you that people are going to miss like Kyrie Irving. He's not Kyrie Irving. You can't have a low budget version and be like, oh, it's the same. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. You know, there's a little extra ingredients in the other one that the low budget version never has. And then with Evan Fournier, I understand you get a floor spacer, so he's going to space the floor, right, with his 3-point shooting. But Evan Fournier is another guy who's been, you know, passed around and like, okay, he can be attacked defensively. So it's not that they were bad signings. It's almost like when you're patching holes or like you're doing quick fixes, but you're not doing anything where it really necessarily, I would say,
remedies the problem permanently.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, that's what I was trying to spit out. It's like, okay, once you actually have to face a true test in the playoffs, that's when it's going to rear its ugly head. And I know, I believe Elder said on Tickets Channel, he was trying to say to the Knicks, he's like, I believe that they're a team that on paper, if they get to the playoffs, is like, which of those teams can they really beat? And I was like, that's a great point. Now, obviously, we're projecting the future here, but he's like, if you think about how matchups go, he said that he doesn't think they can beat any team. Now, I never like to say anyone can't beat any team because I always leave the door open for you can get beat on any day, you know, any day of the week. Injuries happen. So I wouldn't say that because injuries happen, right? But you still have to beat that team 4 times. And he said, they better not run into the team who I think they're going to run into. And he said that I believe Trae Young is going to technically he was saying he believes Trae Young will always be their nightmare because he thinks that they're going to face the Hawks again in the first round. If they had to face the Hawks in the first round, you can forget it. But because he owned the guard. And so that's kind of what I see too, Raw, in terms of the Knicks. I feel like they tried to do little quick patchwork, but they didn't seal the hole permanently with those 2 signings.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are going to stagnate. I know Julius Randle had a great year, but I don't see him as a perennial 25 and what was it? He averaged 25 and 10, 25 and 9.
Yeah,
I don't see him as. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I just don't see him as consistently from now on a 25 and 10 guy for another 4 or 5 years.
And he's not really a number one option like that.
Right. No, he's not a number one option. And we saw that in the playoffs. Can he handle that pressure? You know what I'm saying? And you know, he did not have a good playoffs. And then another thing with Kemba Walker, like you said, injuries is an issue with him. And then there's some games when he's off, he disappears.
Right.
He really disappears. So I don't see any, and he doesn't seem to really elevate guys around him. And when he was with the Hornets, he put up big numbers, but you didn't really see that translate. I know it's not just up to one guy, but it didn't really translate to a lot of additional wins for the franchise. You know, if he wasn't there, okay, it might lose a few more games, but he didn't really. Basically, what I'm saying is he doesn't seem to be one of these guys that can put a team on his back and give you an extra 10 victories just from his play alone. You know what I'm saying? He's not that type of guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see the Knicks. They probably are going to regress.
Yep.
When you look at the other moves that teams have made and probably are going to make, I can see them being a 6 seed, maybe a 7 seed.
I think for me, the two teams that will regress too raw, I believe, or I think the Celtics, if they don't regress, they'll stay the same, is the Knicks and the Celtics. And the reason why I say the Celtics is this. I like both Jalen and Jason, right? I like them both. I saw what Jason did in the playoffs. I watched him at Duke. I know people compared him to, Kobe and all that. He has some of the fadeaway, but he's bigger. He actually has a quick first step, like early Carmelo Anthony, that quick first step. He has a little bit of Carmelo Anthony remnants in his game. He's 6'9", but he looks bigger in that post area. You know what I'm saying? So he has some of that Carmelo game to him and some of that Paul George game to him in terms of how he kind of weaves on the floor, how he kind of lures people to sleep. And that's a guy that he himself, the past 2 years, has actually said he looked up to. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, from a mental standpoint, it's different, obviously. But in terms of just play style and things like that. So I like those players. And I was telling people, I was like, the issue is they didn't upgrade that point guard position. They wound up settling for their point guard position, right? But they got rid of a bad contract. So the best thing that they did was financially. But they have a rookie head coach, who I hope he does well, but they have a rookie head coach, right? They still didn't fix their interior, right? And I was saying, when you look at the teams in the East, a Joel Embiid will destroy their interior. A Nikola Vucevic will destroy their interior. You know what I'm saying? If you have a dominant big, that will destroy their interior. Even Capella will out-rebound whoever they have there. You got rid of Daniel Tice, all those guys. So I'm looking at them, and they made no moves whatsoever really in free agency. And I think they finished as a 7 seed. Now, obviously, that was also due, you had Jaylen Brown getting injured. But that's a team where I actually believe if they don't fall back, they'll kind of stay in the same area. I think all the seedings will get,
so
switched.
So do this.
Yeah.
Do you think they might become something like an Eastern Conference version of Portland? With just two guys playing hero ball?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the defense, though, I think they're going to give you defensively, which would be cool. Right, but it's like at some point, I actually think they might have to kind of go their separate ways if they don't get like a true playmaker in there. It really comes down to management, because we saw, if you remember, in Tura, like a lot of people forget, Toronto Raptors early on, right? Obviously, they weren't a playoff team, but they had a young T-Mac, they had a young Vince Carter, right? People forget T-Mac could actually play defense. Before he was this prolific scorer, he was actually playing defense in Toronto. That's something, right. One of the things people just don't know. Like him, Vince Carter could play defense too. And I could see it kind of like that if they continue to not make moves. You know what I'm saying?
One thing, I don't want to go into a time machine here, but I just want to say something about Tracy McGrady. A lot of people forget that when Tracy McGrady was acquired by Orlando, it was supposed to be him and the real Grant Hill before the injuries.
Yep.
And they had a shot at Tim Duncan, but you could argue Doc Rivers screwed that up with the plane and the family and all that stuff.
Yeah, the wife, the whole nine. Yeah.
Right. But also, Tracy said that he was going to anticipate being more of a playmaker, and that Grant was going to be the primary scorer. But when Grant Hill got injured, he was forced to be the scorer, because when you look at that roster, if you look at the roster from 2000, 2003 or 2, whatever, he was the only guy that could really score. He was the only real primary scoring threat. So he had to become the Tracy McGrady that we saw averaging 28 to 32 points a game. But I just want to throw that in there.
No, you're right. You're right. I definitely agree with you, man. And that was amazing. Just kind of seeing how they both progress, their games progress. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's crazy. And hopefully got like a guy like Jalen can actually stay healthy, because he actually learned in the offseason, about 2 off seasons ago. Remember, there's videos of him, he was working out with T-Mac, you know what I'm saying? And then Tatum worked out with Kobe. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see kind of how they are. But I just don't want them to be, like you said, an East Coast version of the Trailblazers. I was hoping they would be more of the East Coast version, or at one point an East Coast version of the Clips. You had Kawhi, you had PG, you had Beverly, you had Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's actually the defender that Beverly thinks he is. Beverly can play defense in spurts, but then there's times when he'll come in, get you 0 points and 5 fouls. It's like he's literally the pure definition, bro, of a Jekyll and Hyde. Like sometimes he actually looks good and nobody will want to give him credit. And other days he gives you nothing. And he doesn't even have to score and he can be productive, but it's when you're not scoring and you're picking up 5 fouls, where Marcus Smart can actually guard multiple positions, get up on people without the antics, and lock up. You know what I'm saying? So, but both those teams had two-way wing players, and they had an emotional guy on their team, you know, that contributed greatly, you know, made clutch plays in crunch time on defense. You know what I'm saying? Like Patrick Beverly, the clutch block on LeBron. Marcus Smart, I remember him diving for a ball versus Kawhi. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen those teams kind of battle, and I thought the Celtics would actually be an East Coast version of the Clippers, but they seem to be resorting, based off their GM moves, into an East Coast version of the Portland Trailblazers. So we'll see. I think both conferences are deep. I don't know, should I say, I think the East is deep, and I think both conferences are interesting, excuse me.
Right.
But ultimately, like, 'cause I know someone had asked LB who they got winning the championship. I know me personally, if everything were to go according to, I say according to plan, where everyone is healthy and Harden shows up in the playoffs, I would have Brooklyn getting it. It's for me, it's a thing of health. If not, I think in the East, I like ATL and I like the Bucks, because say what you want about the Bucks, one thing for me, True Raw, and this will kind of be my last point on the Eastern Conference, is people forget that Giannis actually, the dude actually improved his game. And I try to tell people this during the season. You don't have to like him in terms of being your favorite player. I think personality-wise, he's one of the most likable superstars in the past 25 years. But you might not necessarily like how he's not flashy. But he added what I call a Rasheed Wallace turnaround jumper to his game that people chose not to acknowledge. He added a couple other elements to the post. He decided to bang into the post in the playoffs, and we saw what he did in the closeout game. So Giannis is a guy who is very, very scary, where it's like, yo, nobody's guarding this dude. And I think Oscar Robertson came out and he said, and you can cook on this because I know you know about Oscar. He said he thinks that the only person that could probably defend Giannis is Anthony Davis. Is probably the only person, because he has the defensive prowess to guard multiple positions. Now, it's interesting. I watched footage because I saw someone on like Ticket's channel say, "Oh, every time Giannis plays, AD, he's destroying AD." And I looked at the footage, and it was actually pretty even. Giannis is a more impactful player. AD's more skilled overall in terms of offense and stuff, shooting. But it was actually pretty even. So that matchup it's an intriguing matchup. But Giannis is like, for me, he has, and I'm not speaking blasphemy because Shaq gives him all the praise and adulation in the world. I understand why Shaq loves Giannis so much. Like, he loves two players, Giannis and Curry. I think he sees what he wishes that he could be in terms of, because he was dominant, but in terms of the mentality, he sees that. The things that people criticize Shaq about in terms of becoming lazy in the second half of his career, I think he sees where Giannis can kind of usurp that, because I don't think, if we're being honest, we've seen Shaq give that much praise to one player outside like Kobe, obviously, ever. Like, I don't remember, you know what I'm saying? And so I was sitting there watching the NBA Finals, and And it really clicked for me. I was like, they got Chris Middleton, and he can close games, Drew Holiday, and all that. And it's okay to actually admit when a player has deficiencies. LeBron had them. Shaq had them. Shaq needed 2 Hall of Fame coaches, a closer, someone to defend the other best player. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to admit someone has certain deficiencies, but that doesn't take away from all their total greatness. If you can accept Giannis for who he is and actually understand what he can continue to be and become, then people will truly understand why a lot of people are bought into. I'm not saying he'll be the GOAT, but I understand like what I'm trying to say is like I understand like his peak. And I'm just saying like I was looking into the future, and I think it's extremely scary. And I think guys like Katie have been trying to put people on notice, like, yo, this dude is a problem. I can't guard him. Like, so if Giannis actually reaches and maxes out his full potential, I think that's what Shaq actually sees, like just the mentality of him, the leadership of him, and him constantly getting better. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he needs to be a 3-point shooter. I think he could have a mid-range game. You know what I'm saying? So that's
What's scary about Giannis is is people make all of these criticisms about how he's offensively still incomplete, which I think has some truth to it. But the fact that this guy averaged 35 points and I believe 13 rebounds in the finals without a consistent, even mid-range to outside shot in this era, and he's 26 years old. And he didn't have like people make these criticisms about all these guys have these super teams and you have this Hall of Fame. But Chris Middleton might go to the Hall of Fame just because he's playing with Giannis when everything all said and done. Other than that, he would be I don't know, a lesser version of Dale Ellis, maybe somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? If he was just playing on other teams. This guy, Giannis, I'm not a person that uses hyperbole. I don't like just because off of one season, I'm going to say, oh, this guy is going to be this. But just watching this guy, you look at it with the resume, he already has an NBA championship. He already has a finals MVP. He already has a Defensive Player of the Year award. He already has 2 NBA regular season MVPs, and Most Improved Player award. And he's only 26 years old, and he's not quite, in my opinion, at his peak yet. I think his peak will be 28 to 32, 33. I think those will be his best years.
Yeah.
This is scary. You know what I'm saying? I understand that a lot of the current fans, they are more in tune with the perimeter-orientated, scoring, guard, flashy.
Steph Curry,
the step back, and James Harden, and I get that. That's what they have been brought up on. But to me, he puts a smile on my face because I grew up in an era where even though Michael Jordan was kind of changing that perception, the center position was still very important, especially in the 80s going into the 90s. It was still, back in the day, the championship teams were built around centers. Whether you're talking about George Mikan or Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Walton or Willis Reed, or even if not necessarily built around, still important parts. Bill Laimbeer, Jack Sikma, older Kareem, younger Kareem, that was more important with the Bucks. But Cap still was important to Lakers too. But the point is that center position has just been phased out. It's like the center is now relegated. If you're not a stretch 5, you're shooting threes, then you're not skilled. Like rebounding and shoot and block shot. Post play and rebounding and shot blocking. That's not a skill. That's just you just big, and it annoys me. So that's why I like Giannis. I hope he can bring that type of play and that type of play style back into vogue, if you know what I mean. Like, and it should have more of those type of players, because I think it needs to be a little pushback from the extremes that we're seeing now. With I love the 3-point shot, but shooting 35 to 40 of them a game, it becomes a bit monotonous to me.
Right.
Like, it's like how now the home run, I yawn now. It's not the same as it was before when you had certain guys who were premier home run hitters hit them. Now everybody hits them. You have a pitcher, Shohei Ohtani, leading the majors in pitching now. I mean, in home runs. So, I just like more parity, more even balance when it comes to things. I don't know. So I like Giannis. But yeah. Now I kind of went way past what we were talking about, but
it's cool, man. I do that on here all the time, man. So it's cool. That's a fun thing. Like we could chill on a Sunday and then have a real basketball conversation. Well, so I like Giannis too, man. And I definitely agree with you on that 3-point shooting thing, because I think for me it's more like, you can shoot the three, but if you're not really KD, you know what I'm saying, and you can score from all three levels efficiently, then I really don't want you to really shoot it like that, because I'm not saying you have to have his skill set with like the handles and everything, but KD, he traded what is not the most efficient shot to three and made it an efficient shot because he's so good at shooting them, right? So guys like him, guys like Curry are the exception, but so many players aren't Curry. And I was going to kind of segue that into, and I'm going to go back to Giannis, but I'm making a connection here with a segue to the Olympics. If you remember during the Olympics, the games that they lost, they were jacking up a lot of threes. Yeah. And yes, we see it in the NBA and we mention it, but I feel like due to it being on the Olympics, and I already knew that the NBA has jacked up a lot of threes, but I'm like watching Olympics, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, we're not going inside. We really don't pull up from the mid-range a lot, even though we had mid-range guys on the team. But it's like, Team USA, like their brand of basketball, looks completely different on the floor than France, than all these other teams that they played. And I was like, I told myself, I was like, because I'm not really big on jacking up the threes, but I was like, I remember uttering, bro, I don't like this. Like, why are we doing this? You know what I'm saying? I was like, yeah. Right. And so you actually finally get to see how other like people feel about USA or like what the game is. I'm like, oh, we got to change. We got to get back to some type of, I don't want to say normalcy, but we have to have some type of balance. And so guys like Giannis, guys like Embiid, guys like Jokic can shoot the three, but Jokic brings playmaking. He's an anomaly, right? Jokic is like trying to guard three different people, because if you try to stop him, next thing you know, Porter Jr. is off ball cutting to the basket and some Larry Bird pass is getting thrown to him. But like I always say, the NBA is cyclical, right? Or the world itself is cyclical, right? So everything in time repeats itself and goes back to, what it was once before. So I believe you're going to see more of an inside out game, because some people are like, oh, we'll never return. Well, Joel Embiid proved that's not true. Jokic proved that's not true. Karl-Anthony Towns proved that's not true. He just has to stay healthy. He's playing on a garbage team, you know what I'm saying? That's trapped in purgatory, And then
look at the last three MVPs.
Exactly, the last three MVPs, man. So and who they were, So and then Giannis, what he does. So I agree with you on it being him kind of returning, but also I think he has a lot on his shoulders in the fact that Giannis could really truly be the person that helps be a catalyst to the inside game, as well as a catalyst to the the end of super teams. Yes, he said that, I may not ever be here again, in the NBA finals, but it was all worth it, because I think he does know, yes, injuries, because one thing is he's humble. He's humble. So it's not that they don't earn a championship, but he really, he gives respect to the KDs, to the LeBrons of the world, et cetera. And he understands how great KD is, but, and so obviously his foot didn't touch, and he knows what happened in the first two games. But I believe he believes he's a competitor and he can compete. And that's one thing that he's not going to stop doing. So he could actually win the championship next year, because what he has is he has two things on his side. He has longevity in time, and he has durability. If you ask me who's the most durable superstar outside of obviously like Jokic, it is Giannis Antetokounmpo. So Giannis is the most durable, and he has the time on his side, because obviously when Kawhi, when KD, when Yeah, him and X is like today's Sunday. Yeah, I believe today is Sunday, right? Yeah, today's Sunday. Just making sure. Yeah. When you look at Kawhi, when you look at KD, when you look at Curry, when you look at LeBron, when Giannis is still in his prime, those guys are going to be retired. Father Time is undefeated, and Giannis can still be winning championships. So I think that for me, I think that's really, really where he has on his side. And I know people mention the GOAT conversation, and people get very touchy. Michael Jordan, I always said, is the GOAT, and I don't really need to even make a case for it because I already have. I can actually break down his game. There's so many reasons why I have him as the GOAT, but when I hear Giannis in these GOAT conversations, I kind of laugh, not laughing at it. It's because there's a YouTuber, and I don't promote other people's on these channels. This is LB's channel, but there was a YouTuber. If you just type in Giannis GOAT, he actually made a case for Giannis 2 years ago. It was over 2 years ago, and he's a very, very popular YouTuber. He gets millions of views, and it was amazing to Raw. Great video. He broke down Kawhi, Curry, and all these other people, and why none of them actually fit the mold. He's like, because of this, that, and that. But he's like, I believe it's going to be Giannis. And some people are like, oh, well, blah, 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 this is crazy, blah, blah, blah. And he made a crazy breakdown. And when Giannis won his championship, right, I saw like people came back to the comment section, bro, like, yo, this thing like aged well, because it was the points he made in the video that Giannis actually hit. And I was like, bro, all I could do was clap. I was like, great job, dude. You know what I'm saying? And I always said that I think a lot of people think the next GOAT per se had to be in the version of MJ. I'm like, no, it never did. I think people kept looking, or people are looking for the wrong thing. The next GOAT not necessarily was going to be in the form of a 6'6", 205 shooting guard from Carolina or wherever. It probably was going to be a big man or something like that. And I think Giannis, he's so different than what we've seen that people are having a hard time accepting it. And it's almost like, I don't want to feel like I'm giving him too much praise, but I'm just keeping it real. I feel like it's almost like,
I can see where you're going with that. But
yeah,
I see you going with that. I'm gonna tell you why.
It's like, don't shut him down so quick. Yeah,
Jordan. I slightly touched on this in a conversation we just had about something else. Jordan changed the perception of how you could build around a guard. Before that, the perception was that, like I said, you had to build around a center. Right. Kareem, all these other guys. Guards were at least secondary. Okay, what's a big man we could draft? A point. Big point of that is first person was drafted in the '84 draft wasn't Jordan. It was Elijah one. And then, of course, infamously, before Jordan was selected, they picked what's his name? Portland.
Sam Bowie?
Sam Bowie, yeah. They picked Sam Bowie. Okay, because the perception is that, well, they already had Clyde Drexler, but hey, you need a big man to win. And Jordan changed that perception. You can't win with a shooting guard. You have to have some type of dominant center, especially a shooting guard that shoots the ball 20 sometimes and scoring champion. You can't win a championship and build a championship team, a legitimate championship team around a shooting guard. Jordan blew that away. So then you started seeing teams focus more on perimeter players. And this is the NBA that we have now, to the point where the center position is like not even looked at as very important. It's just, a complementary to the perimeter. We need stretch fives. We need stretch fours. You might have a couple of guys who, aren't really skilled, but they can just get a couple of rebounds here or there and, block a couple of shots and, but other than that, no, we don't really need a great center anymore. That day is done. Those are dinosaurs. Giannis, like you said, to your point, could be that guy that says, no, wait a minute, we need to bring this back around now. Okay, you guys proving your point. We don't necessarily need a great big man, but you still need a big man. for many things. The Bulls still needed Robin for rebounding. They still needed a Horace Grant. They still needed the other big men for, occasional baskets here or there, some interior defense. Okay, so you still need a big man. So Giannis could be that player, that transcendent player that you're saying, that's going to change the perception of the big man in today's generation. He could be.
Yeah.
He very well could be.
That's exactly what I'm saying, and I kind of I'll kind of add more to my point or case. It's like this. I don't know how many people here like play 2K, you know what I'm saying? Either stop playing 2K, enjoy playing 2K, whatever. I like to play 2K. Obviously there's some things wrong with the game, but I play it because it's a basketball game, right? And there's always this thing that I always see come up, and we mentioned it a lot, is if nobody would pick Giannis in 2K before. Well, actually, no, people would pick Giannis to improve his game, but nobody knew Giannis, because he used to be a 60 overall player on like 2K 12 or 13, whatever, right? And the Bucks got him, and people forget it was Jabari Parker that was being compared to Carmelo's and Grant Hill's out of Duke. You know what I'm saying? Jabari Parker was the one that was supposed to be the Don Dada and, the guy who came through and did all these things, right?
Right.
It turned out that it wasn't the case. It would be Giannis. And so Giannis went from like a 60 overall 2K player to a 97. And that actually showed on the court in terms of his progression. Because I always tell people this, it's not that no one's progressed. In NBA history, if you know NBA history dating back to the James Naismith days, this is why Giannis is scary. No NBA player in the history of the NBA, right? And I love Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant became the most skilled, but nobody in the history of the NBA has had the level of progression from year to year, right, that Giannis had based off of what he was projected to be. And that's scary. Like Giannis is like, if you had nobody who was a GM, literally, because they would be lying to themselves. The worst lie we tell is the ones we tell ourselves. It was like, oh, Giannis is going to be defensive player of the year, MVP, 2-time MVP, finals MVP, most improved player of the year, 26, have a Shaq-like impact from the forward position, and actually have one of the greatest statistical seasons since 2000, Shaq by all analytic nerds' advanced metrics. If someone told you that, they would slap you and say that you're on bath salts. Well, guess what? It was like 7 years later it happened. You know what I'm saying? And so that's when I'm like, bro, when I see these Max Kellermans, when they say the GOAT thing, I actually think, because I'm not a big fan of Max, but every now and then he'll make a point when I'm like, yo, dude is low-key cooking. But it's like don't necessarily brush it aside. So I'm not necessarily saying he's going to end up as the GOAT. I'm not saying he's going to end up as a GOAT. But if Giannis continues on the path that he's on, if he wins the chips, if he changes and becomes transcendent, there is going to be a conversation one day down the line. And I just tell people, you don't necessarily want to be on the wrong side of history. That's all I'm saying. But he could also, something could happen. He could get hurt, or maybe the level of his play just falls off a cliff or something. I don't see it happening. But I do believe that Giannis is special. And I think these last 2 years, I'm like, it really clicked, because I think the remnants of Kawhi was there for a lot of people still, the way Kawhi did him. But I feel like if they were to see each other again, it's like, okay, I grew up now. I took your advice now. You know what I'm saying? And my final point is this. I'm going to use a comparison because everyone loves to talk about Anthony Davis, right? And my issue with Anthony Davis is he screams when he gets fouled. He's not durable, whatever. But if you do a blind reveal, right? You have Anthony Davis is one, Exhibit A, and Exhibit B is Giannis. You don't know it's Giannis, right? You have a guy who can shoot the three, mid-range, handle the ball, post up. Okay, cool. Defend 1 through 5 or whatever. All right, cool, right? Then you have another guy who can't shoot the three, questionable mid-range, starting to get a mid-range. He's demonstrative as a rim protector, can destroy you inside, has a great impact. You can build a system around him, and he can push the ball in the open floor, right? But one of them isn't durable. The other one is extremely durable. You know what I'm saying? One of them's not a leader. The other one is a leader. It's like Anthony Davis and Giannis, it's like they're antagonists. They're the complete polar opposite of one another. But everyone loves Anthony Davis for the flash. But Giannis is the one that you actually need to be your franchise player and is going to bear fruit later on, that the person that picked Exhibit B is going to win 10 years down the line, where the person that picked Exhibit A isn't going to win. They're going to win in the now, right and now, because he's a little complacent. He's happy with getting that one ring that he got. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
KG's like, hey, go to LA, get the ring, and I love KG, but KG got his ring and it was all cool. So that's kind of where I say with Giannis is don't be easily mesmerized and fooled by the fancy skill set when Giannis's way is getting it done, and he has leadership intangibles. He's a great teammate. He gives respect to his peers, all the time. Obviously, this James Harden thing, that's a little different. I thought that was actually kind of funny, Bo. But his teammates genuinely like him. They never say anything bad about him. And just his upbringing. And I told LB and I think Lou and all them that were on the panel earlier that if you go like the last 25 years, he's probably the most likable superstar in terms of just a personality standpoint. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Too raw. I definitely want to see what Giannis does. If I can get him in like fantasy basketball or something, I got to get all my stocks on Giannis, But man, I think he has a bright future, man. It's going to continue to have a bright future for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely the most likable, I would say, since man, you might have to go back to David Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the most likable guy.
Yeah.
I remember you said something about you really can't think of a guy that has made that much progression, and I just want to make I really can't. But this is another. Yeah, this is another comparison I want to make to Jordan, even more so than Jordan. But Jordan was another guy. Most people didn't think he was going to be. Now, look, I'm not going to say people thought he was going to be a bum. Of course not. But most people thought he was going to be maybe Jerry Stackhouse coming out of North Carolina. I know that sounds crazy saying that now, but most people didn't think he was going to be Michael Jordan when he was drafted.
Right.
People who I'm talking about the fan perception, not people who played with him in North Carolina, not people who observed him in those games against the NBA players, exhibition games. He was kicking their asses. And sometimes when he was playing in North Carolina, by playing that system, his actual greatness was being hidden playing in that system. Those who watched him up close knew how good he was, but the average fan, they thought he was going to be maybe, like I said, Jerry Stackhouse, 19, 20 points a game, a good addition, but not going to be a type that's going to alter your franchise. And then, of course, boom, almost from day one, you saw what he was about. But with Giannis, like you're saying, the progression that he's made is I can't think of a guy. I cannot. I'm thinking. And I can think going back to the 40s. I'm trying to think about a guy that I can compare that to. The only guy that's kind of popping in my head, but it still wasn't that low of progression, was John Havlicek. Okay. But even with that, you saw what he was going to be about within about 3 years. Yeah, Giannis. He might be I think you're right in that one. Yeah,
like his progression is insane. Hakeem, obviously, he started basketball, I think, when he was in high school. Olajuwon, he was great. I actually have Olajuwon in my top 5. Actually, I broke that down on a video that Ticket did on when Shannon Sharp was like, Kobe's not a top 5 player. I was like, here we go. But I have Hakeem Olajuwon in my top 5, so anyone can check that one out. And he progressed well, for having started from high school. But Giannis was like, nobody saw it coming. You know what I'm saying? Like he's he's an amazing player. And I kind of wanted to piggyback on what she said about when we were talking about the progression, excuse me, was this. And I don't think it gets brought up enough. Giannis, yes, he worked out with Kobe, but he also worked out with Kevin Garnett. Jason Kidd was the one that brought in Kevin Garnett when I believe Thon Maker was still on the team. I don't know if Thon's even in the league anymore, but Thon Maker was on the team, that early Bucks team. So he had KG in his ear, and Giannis was talking about the things that he picked up from KG. But I always tell people this all the time. You can work out with as many players or as many legends that you want, right? And you have all the resources. But if you yourself don't apply those aspects in that basketball acumen and those tools, those tricks of the trade to your own game, then it's useless. It's going to be nullified during game time. And so I believe like this past season is really when you start to see Giannis really take over that, take those things to heart. You know what I'm saying? And so he's one of those guys that, he respects the legends, right? Like Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant respected the legends. He learns from the legends like Kobe Bryant, So it's like he has remnants of a lot of different players in his game. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like Kendrick Lamar has remnants of all these other rappers in his raps. You know what I'm saying? Like he has some DMX, he has some Eminem, different characters. He has all, he has different remnants, right? Using an analogy there. Well, Giannis has, the Shaq-like impact. He has some of the Kobe in there. He has some of the KG in there now with guarding multiple positions. It's just putting it all together, being dominant, being consistent, elevating your level of play in the playoffs, continuing being the leader that you are, having an impact on a team. If something's not going right, speak up to the coach, speak up to the team, whatever needs to be done, constantly adjusting the way that you need to adjust, maybe from year to year, whatever that needs to be done. You know what I'm saying? So if Giannis continues down that path of doing what's right, I think I'll put it like this: it's limitless for what he could do because he's not even complete. That's a scary thing. So I think it's limitless, and I think it's going to be great just seeing it pan out. I just think my only qualm is because I'm not big on the city of like Milwaukee or that. I'm not trying to diss them or whatever, but I wish he could play for like a different franchise because Milwaukee's not necessarily a place where I would want to actually go to games at per se. But yeah. So Giannis is amazing, man. So we'll see. We'll definitely see too, Raw. We'll definitely see, man.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
well, yeah. I know this is LB show, so I don't want to say we're going to have to go. I'm going to have to drop off.
Yeah, me too. I got to get some rub. Yeah. Hey, it was great talking to you, too, Raw.
It was good talking to you, too, man.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Want to chop it up again sometime.
Yeah, we got to chop it up, man. So it was good talking intelligent basketball conversation, always on this channel.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
It's good talking to you and good talking to the panel. And hope everybody have a good day, man. Hope you have a good day too, man.
All right, you too, man. You have a great day. Salute to LB. Salute to the rest of the panel. Have a great day. Salute to the chat. LB, I think just popped back in. Thank you for allowing me to come in, LB, as always, man. I appreciate it.
All right, now.
All right, man. All day, man. You know what I'm saying? And of course, Too Raw for TV, my confidant, my ace in the hole, my motherfucking dog. You know what I'm saying?
That's what's up.
So, man,
was that RDD? Was that RD? Oh my bad. I thought that was RDD2.
Yeah. I was like either that or LB just got a lightsaber out or something.
No, man, that's my third.
I'm like, what you doing over there, man? About to kill some clones.
I don't do no goddamn Star Wars and shit. Fuck that.
Oh,
that's my GPS, man.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he's like learning the ways of the Jedi over there, man. All right, man.
All right, now, y'all.
Shit.
All right, man. All right, you guys have a wonderful Sunday.
Man. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Okay, stay safe. All right, peace.
Smash the like, hit the subscribe, man. Shouts out to the LDBC. This your boy. Scream at me. Oh!